Alright, we are back for Witch of the Holy Night, Chapter 3. Wait, I think my puppy wants to come down. Ellie. Here, you can come down. It's okay. Okay. We'll play more later, okay? Time. It's time to play some video games. Oh, and one more thing. I just want to say at the start of the video, thank you guys so much for 101 subscribers. Oh my goodness. Did you believe that, bro? Can you believe that? We're at 101 subscribers. Why don't you don't look happy for me? Why don't you look happy for me, bro? We're at 101 subscribers. That's so cool, dude. But now, Chapter 3 of Witch on the Holy Night. Now that I'm done with the Elden Ring DLC, I can continue this in time before Tsukihime, which should come at the end of the month. I should be getting it around the time we're at Anime Expo, so we'll see how it goes. Let me tell you how the events of yesterday transpired. What happened yesterday? On the moonless nights, you must never look back. Was it a lesson or was it a warning? It was so very long at the time I could not have imagined what my very being would become. One night it came without warning. I was filled with anxiety so heightened that it made me want to burst into tears. So I fled to my grandfather's workshop. Like the grandfather I knew, he smiled and kindly placed his hands upon my head. Yes, the Red Death follows your every footsteps. Rather than consoling me, he sent me home with only those haunting words. That night I was certain that I sensed a shadow lurking behind me. Something or someone watched me from afar. Then little by little, year by year, it drew closer. Eventually, the presence that once felt like a spot of the horizon grew so close that I could feel its breath down the base of my neck. Of course, it was all in my mind. When I turned around, nobody was there. But that night marked the beginning. In hindsight, I later understood that the inscribed anxiety I felt was a dread of certain death. Okay. Hey. That's so creepy. How much time has passed since that night? I lingered deep in the recesses of my mind where my childhood memories are kept. A faded storybook-esque memory. On dark nights I still hear the faint echo of my grandfather's words. What do you say? But no matter how strong the wind may howl or how in trace the song of the girl next to me, I can never bury his ominous words completely. It's here. And the girl beside me said, Alice, and inflection of his voice spoke volumes of her role as the bystander. Oh, it's Alice. That night there was only me and her. It was the night I will mark the birth of who I am today. From what should have been quite the memorable night, it sure wasn't a promising start. Dense clouds blocked the starlight above like a black umbrella. Strong wind tore through the sky, carrying the heavy clouds with it. The hands of the clock in the middle of the park pointed skyward as if reaching for the moon. Unfortunately for them, tonight there was no moon to point at. The winter air grew fiercer as the night wore on, and the hailing felt as though it would freeze me from the inside. The air chilled me to the bone, threatening to pass my spine directly to my brain, to prevent my mind from being paralyzed, and to prevent my fingertips from becoming stone. I sparked a fire using my internal rhythm and emotion. I'm transferring tactile feedback to you. Good luck. Stand over there and the engraved will-o-wisp will ignite. I responded to Alice with a nod, and then for just a moment I saw the ground. My legs quivered ever so faintly. I told myself that they were shaking from the cold, but I wasn't so sure. In reality, there may have not been numb to the cold, but by fear. I breathed a sigh of relief. My humanity must still be intact and my emotions are still present. What? Before I could sink into pool of my own sentimentality, the sensations from the bounded field flowed from Alice into me. A transparent wall covered the entire park, an unrecognizable carpet rooted deep under the earth. What am I reading? Alice Kunoji's chants of the Mother Goose fairy tales permitted the night. The sensations became one with my body. I felt goosebumps on my quivering right arm. Someone had trespassed. The goosebumps crept up my right arm like ants, and slowly but surely made inroads for my heart. Holding back the desire to drive them out, I waited for them to reach and start in the defend position. A moonless night, the park's quaint streets lights were not enough to lift the darkness. The ants came to a stop. Far from my right arm, they had reached my very heart. Even without the aid of my sense of sight, I could see the intruder lurking in the darkness. Just started boarding the bushes about 30 steps back on all fours. It was beckoning with its right hand. There. The enemy's movements and my perception of it were in lockstep. I spun around. The enemy's arms stretched out. Luffy! Look, bro, it's Luffy from One Piece. They stretch their arms. The enemy arms stretched out like a spear. This lethal weapon aimed at the back of my head brushed my hair at the breakneck speed. With the omniscient awareness granted by Alice's ward, I managed to avoid it by the skin of my teeth. What? Is it a doll? My hair fanned through the air from the violence of the attack. The strike grazed my cheek and I felt a small sharp pain. It felt like the kiss of death. I switched the flow of my body's blood to a different... What? I switched the flow of my body's blood to a different cycle. The blood running through my veins at a few feet per second transformed into an imaginary element. My body became a single circuit and my heart transformed into a completely different engine. Within my stirred an unknown motion of immeasurable heat. Something mystic yet untapped by the humankind that made me who I am. It was the fire of life behind all miracles and fables. What we may just call magical energy. Connecting. I turned around, set the enemy in my sights, and held up one hand. My arm was the agent of my will. My lack of experience meant my magecraft wouldn't be only possible with the use of vocalizations and gestures. Okay. Magic formulae were engraved all over the park. All I had to do was ignite them. I need to direct the flow of the magical energy within my body into each formula. Typically, a mage acts as a conduit, whether wired or wireless. The mage simply pours the magical energy into the formula. Releasing this energy in the form of a projectile stream or any number of other methods would usually suffice, but in my case, it was the feeling of my limbs whipped out. Whipping out? Burn. This is cool, dude. I fought speed with speed? Bro, what the fuck? This is so sick. That's a screenshot. The enemy's arm extended 10 feet forward, became engulfed in flames. It was nighttime in the park, the scene reminiscent of the campfire, but one in which the center of the flames contained a human figure wriggling like a shadow puppet. The flames subsided just as naturally as it was ignited. No crackling, no burning smell. You can have the bounded field back. I'll check the remains. After telling this to Alice, I headed towards the motionless figure. What are we looking at? I killed it. Regardless of who my opponent was, I just took someone's life. My throat parched. I swallowed the truth that without a sense of reality, I would have been helpless. So hard and bitter, impossible to swallow, but I tried to anyway. I was unnervingly calm. My heart pounded and my heart breath felt heavy, but my mind was nonetheless calm. By the time I realized it, the charred remains were already in front of me. Bracing for a counterattack, I carefully examined the corpse. Everything seemed fine. The body lying slumped to the ground was nothing but ash. But something wasn't right. To begin with, its remains didn't seem organic. Not willing to believe my hunch, I took a closer look at the corpse's face. All that greeted me was the featureless white face of a mannequin. Damn it, they got us again. Screaming, I kicked the mannequin. The corpse crumbled to ash and disappeared within the wind. No, this was no corpse, this was just a puppet, and for all our efforts to lure the master out, we had once again been tricked by a familiar. My debut, my first test out in the open, will be postponed for another day. Was this her debut as a mage? Will I ever pass this test? What? At that moment, I suddenly noticed something familiar in the corner of my eye. Something seemed strange about the slide on the other end of the park. It appeared as though its shadows were larger than it should be. Was I still drunk on the high of battle? It took me a second to realize what it was. Who's there? Calling out was a mistake. Startled by my voice, the figure wearing a familiar high school uniform took a step back and then it broke into a sprint. Like someone running for their life. Or should I say, he was doing exactly that. After him, we've been spotted. Oh, it's the MC. Shiro, bro. It's Shiro, right? I know it's not Shiro. I'm thinking of Fate. In a rush, I shouted to my partner, but she hadn't even noticed the third party's presence in the first place. Though it wasn't as if I could move by myself embarrassing, the flight had taken more out of me than I have liked. No, he'll get away. We need to catch and eliminate him. There was no time for... What? Niceties? For us, being seen here was a matter of life and death. Dude, what the hell? This is so cool, dude. It's like this is like the first game in like the whole Nasu universe. So it explains all the magic, explains what mage is like it, I assume this is what explains everything because when you watch Fate, it's like you're it's assumed you already know how the world works, right? But in this one, I assume it's gonna explain everything to you. That's so sick, dude. I had to admire his escape. The witness party to entire night's proceedings had disappeared into the darkness of the residential district without a trace. Why the hell didn't I sense him in the field? Complaining to myself wouldn't bring back the figure in uniform. Bitter at my own incompetence, I gave up the chase. Though temporary, the park had been Alice's woods. For anyone within a few feet of the park, other park goers identified features and voices became murky like the stuff of fairy tales. Tonight's proceedings may have had a witness, but if our identities were still hidden, then this will still have be a chance. That looked like a male from behind. I returned to the park. That uniform was without a doubt from my high school. That was clue enough. It was a schoolmate of mine. I had plenty of methods to flush him out. It's one thing after another. Amidst my grumbling, I set my priorities straight. Before some strange rumor spread, I needed to sew the witness' mouth shut. That was the highest priority, quickly and without mercy. Looking out, I saw Alice, privileged to stop figure. Though she was in much trouble, I was with her existence as a mage also exposed. She had been one thing to say. This means trouble? Uh-oh. Her statue-like figure starting into darkness seemed more expressionless than calm. I was pissed off. Her inscrutable voice resembled the moonless night so much it would made me angry. Dude, the amount of times they said moonless night, it's kind of a lot. Are we already in the next chapter? What? Alright. We're in chapter 3? No, that was chapter 3. We're in chapter 4? Okay, hell yeah. Okay, so I guess some are long. Yeah. Some are long and some are short. Blues in her name. There really isn't any other way of saying this. I'm a magician. Ooh, here we go. Alright. Kind of like those witches and fairy tales who live alone in the woods and perform miracles with a wave of a finger. While my popular deception differs from reality, it's closer to the truth than you know. Though, just so we're clear, no, I don't fly through the sky on a broom. I cannot transform into animals or speak with small birds. Modern mages are nothing so fanciful. Our existence sounds unbelievable, but we're quite grounded. Though it may seem like we can do anything, we're actually majorly constrained. And while I still have a lot to learn about it, this is my real job. Sounds a lot more romantic than being a high school student, right? Naturally, this is a secret I don't just share with anyone. A mage must do everything in their power to conceal their work. That is the first and most important of the association's 10th laws. Not that I'm tempted to let that cat out the bag in the least. My secret identity as an honor student is intact, and absolutely no good will come of revealing my true nature. If anything, I'd only lead to more headaches. That's why I do everything in my power to keep it a secret. Of course, if I'd accomplished anything as a magician by now, then maybe I'd see it differently. I fantasize about revealing my secret life's works to a single special person when I finally make something of myself. Yeah, it'd be pretty stellar to just confess one day, by the way, I'm a magician. That idea alone is enough to keep me from spoiling the big reveal regardless of the association's rules. So she's gonna tell one person. My grandfather patted me on the head when I shared these thoughts with him. I don't know if it was a praise or what, but I remember that his touch was gentle. I first learned that I would be succeeding my grandfather one day I graduated middle school. When I returned home, there he was. Your elder sister left on the journey. From this day forth, you are the heir to the Iozaki. Okay, she has an older sister. He said in such a matter-of-fact way. I knew that the Iozaki family passed on this old tradition of magecraft, but to be honest, I never imagined I would be the one to wield it. Magecraft is supposed to be passed down to a single child. It was my sister's role to take the mantle, and I had no interest in dedicating myself to many rules and routines. I planned to live a normal life. I had hopes and dreams for the future. I felt bad for my sister, but I was determined to live my life my way. And while I managed to do just that for a time, I was blindsided by a vicious counterpunch. Since then, I've been thrust headless into a world I had only observed from afar. It was a hell of a way to start high school, but I suppose it wasn't all that bad, all things considered. A lot has happened since then. I was so dazed by this newfound life that a year of school motored right by. I was second year before I knew it. Thankfully, nothing drastic has happened. The 6 months my roommate and I tried to kill each other was now what? The 6 months my roommate and I totally tried to kill each other. Notwithstanding, as it happens, I've got a natural talent at this magic stuff. So I've yet to have any hangups. They try to kill each other? What? I'm only human, so I've had my fair share of headaches for sure, but never once did I worry about my future. I thought my life would be smooth sailing all the way. If only everything had gone to plan last night. Well, Alice Kunuji asked Ako Ayozaki the second she entered the house. Her dark eyes succeeded where her voice failed to communicate the gravity of the situation. Ako took off her unflattering coat and hung it on the hanger and sat down on the sofa. Alice sat across from her with a table separating them. Any progress with those things? With what? Not at all. I've only gotten 7 left. And are any good reconnaissance? I've been using them up fast and haven't had time to make more. Alice's gaze drifted from Ako to the box of the table. Were none of them keeping watch that night? They've never let you down when it comes to this sort of thing, have they? During that day, no, but there's quite the risk when flying at night. I should put the volume down just a bit, right? What? Oh, I didn't even know you can switch characters. I haven't even done that yet, dude. I've done that for like 80 hours and I haven't even gone in there yet. Meaning the way released us when we needed the most, Aqua side. Well, how are you fearing? You seem pretty confident this morning. Yo, thanks for joining the stream, dude. Yeah, I guess everything's good on my end. I'm pretty sure I'll know by tomorrow. I told Tobimaru to look into all the students' addresses and schedules. Oh, they're trying to find out who it was? Not many people wander the park that time of night, so it should be easy enough to figure out who it was. How can you be so sure? Because I don't just join the student council to keep appearances. I've been using my position to keep tabs on everyone. Ah, that's smart. I have information on anything from part-time jobs to friends' addresses to what they're up in spare time. It's a list I was hoping to keep secret, but we can't afford to do that now, can we? That's why keep the vice president around. It's that kind of thing that does best. Incidentally, the creation of the secret file started the moment Ako became student council president. The mere rumor of his existence was enough to strike fear into the entire student body. As thorough as always, I see. Alice was only mildly surprised. It has been almost 2 years since they first started living together. She knew as well as anyone that when Ako put her mind to something, she saw it through to the end. Well, I never imagined I'd have to use it like this, but it's better to be safe than sorry. Look at the lights just flickering. That's cool. But what happened last night was far beyond a mere exception to that rule. This precedent should not have even been possible. More importantly, have you figured out what went wrong? And don't tell me it had anything to do with your link to the bounded field. Bounded field? Akko glared at her. The ward was Alice's responsibility. It was to blame for last night's trouble. Alice had to own up to her fair share. So Alice messed up. Alice and Akko may have been roommates and partners, but it was a relationship of convenience. While lineage had brought them together, they were more like enemies than allies. Oh, ultimately, they were just not a match. Where there was a blunder, it was punished. Where there was an opening, it would be attacked. If there was even an opportunity, the two of them will kill each other. What the fuck? The two of them will kill each other. Kill each other in the event of such a... Why? Why? Alice locked eyes with Akko. Did the time just go back? Akko's fierce gaze could make a grown man cower in fear, but Alice did not bat an eyelash. Assuming the bounded field was the problem, wouldn't that have happened countless times before? I suppose you're right, Akko agreed as the question reaffirmed her trust in Alice. So you're saying there was nothing wrong with it? No. I honestly can't say for sure. Alice answered as flattery as ever. A bounded field is like a sanctuary... Okay, so they're going to explain it. A bounded field is like a sanctuary sealed away from the real world. Steps are taken whereby a certain area is cut off from the outside world. There are various kinds of bounded fields. There are physical ones that close off in an area behind a wall, and less tangible ones that use mirrors, mist, or trees to conceal that which occurred within. However, when closing off an area to the outside world, you cannot avoid You cannot avoid communicating the abnormality's existence. In other words, the area may be closed off to the outside world, but it is impossible to hide the fact that it is closed off. In time, someone will take interest in a sealed off area, even if they cannot see what's going on inside. Some might say this is putting the cart before the horse. The ideal field would be one that was both undetected and impervious to the interference from the outside world. That was exactly the kind Alice had generated in the park the night before. Even if someone has reason to think that place, they shouldn't enter if you've made them forget the reason for being there. Okay. It takes an immense amount of time and energy to create a field that produces a temporary illusion around a location you wish to conceal, but they prove extremely efficient for at least an hour or so, right? And to top it all off, it was top class, made from mirrors, and it's not like they shatter while you were using it. The only other presence to throw inside was that of the puppets. If that isn't a perfectly constructed bounded field, then what is? I have no idea. The trees were prepared perfectly. I cultivated trees and planted it over several days, and it was always proved to be a reliable field. But maybe, just maybe, there was something I didn't account for. Though Alice's words concealed the possibility, her eyes expressed her confidence that she had overlooked nothing. Well, crap. In that case, we better hope that the witness was the puppeteer, which would make sense. A mage would probably be able to penetrate it. Something else bothers me, though. How did he avoid detection? The thought of being targeted by this individual was pretty terrifying. If they were able to penetrate Alice's fields, it could only mean that their skill in magecraft was superior to Alice. Oh, so there's a stronger mage. Alice, in her current state, would be completely helpless against such a foe. What's with the Dragon Balls? I've already determined that it was not a mage. This was most certainly an outsider. The starlings are one thing, but not even Robin was able to follow him. There were no traces of magical energy, so that rose out a magical pond. Okay. Akko was quickly running out of straws to grasp at, and that meant she was out of questions to ask. All she could do was call it bad luck and leave it at that. First, you get found out that you're a mage, then you let the witness get away. Why couldn't I just have a normal high schooler problems? The suffered ground as she leaned back. Her gaze went up to the brown ceiling with a sigh. It wasn't much of a view. She was becoming increasingly depressed. Akko, make up your mind. That's funny. Her roommate's voice seemed indifferent, but Akko just kept staring up at the wooden ceiling. If you're not up to the task, I can take care of it myself. The cool-mannered girl's statements carried an equally icy implications. Akko took the words in slowly, with as much sincerity as she could muster. It was like trying to swallow molten lead. She's right, and I've already made up my mind. The thought sounded hollow even if it popped up into her head. This was clearly different from last time. I have to cough. While the aim was indeed the same, the circumstances surrounding her target were clearly different. Ellie, come here! Oh, she left. She may have been determined before, but that was a mage. If enemies emerged, she would kill them. If she was challenged, she would step up to the fight. It was a fight between two mages and her opponent was in the wrong. Even if this could only end in death from one of them, it was the outcome both parties could accept. Kill or be killed. Morality had no weight on the scale. What? But this time was different. Her opponent was neither enemy nor mage. Even if she was prepared to kill them, this person was likely not ready to die. That's why morality didn't factor into it now. Was she truly up to the task of murdering an innocent person? Could she swallow the fact that this was a common occurrence for a mage? She snorted She snorted sardonically? I've never read that word in my life. Being a mage did not mean that Akko was some kind of monk who could cut ties with the real world on a whim. If there's one thing Akko hated, it was doing things without convenience or understanding exactly why she was doing them. When she acted, she preferred to act decisively. I guess I don't have any other choice. As she said it, she got up from the sofa, having had her fill of the ceilings one day. Akko had returned to the Akko of always, and Alice was done probing her. Take this. As if to reward her, Alice produced a small bottle. It fit neatly in the palm of her hand. The bottle looked completely out of place in her slender fingers. The glass was cloudy and it appeared empty. Some shred of paper remainings on the front where there was once a label. What's that? Akko stared at the bottle suspiciously. It's a strong bottle. I had one to spare, so I'm giving it to you.
はい
A what?
名前は忘れたけ
A
ど
storage bottle. I forgot what it's
中国の
called, but
小
it's a
説に
thing out
出
of
て
a
きたのと
Chinese
同じ
novel.
よ
Akko was miraculously able to praise what Alice meant.
それって
Are you saying
レ
that
ンゲ
this is
堂
the
の兄弟の話
red drinking ground
じゃあ
from
あ
the
の赤い
story
ひょう
about
た
the
ん
two
と同じ
brothers
な
who
わけ
guarded the Lotus Cave?
言いたくないけど
Don't
そ
take
こ
this
ら
the
辺
wrong
の
way,
風
but it
邪
looks
薬の
like
ラベルを
your
無理やり
everyday
剥がして
medicine
小
bottle with a
瓶に見
label
せ
ripped
かけ
off.
てるそれが
That's such a funny face. Alice looked at the bottle and acknowledged how ordinary it looked. Look at that fucking face, dude. She also understood that she would not be the one using it as she set it on the table.
赤い
What
ひ
is
ょう
that
たんじゃ
face?
なくて
Except this is a jade
陽子
flask,
力
not a
の
red
常
drinking
連の
ground.
方そういう問題じゃない
That's not the problem. The
私
problem
は
is
魔
maintaining
術
my
師としての
dignity as a
雰囲気を
mage.
論じてるんだ些細なことを
Don't
気
get
に
stuck
す
on
る
the
の
details. Just be happy it's not a bottle of
正露丸の
laxatives.
瓶じゃないだけい
Ooh,
い
that's
と
not
思う
good.
けど
Fine. She made a good point.
蓋を開けて
Just open the
相
lid
手
and
の名
ask the
前を尋
person's
ねれ
name.
ばいいからただし
But be careful
相手に
because if
抵
the
抗する
target
意
is
志が
resistant,
残
the
ってい
bottle will
る場合
shatter. Akko raised her eyebrows.
ちょっと待った
Hang on. If he's
抵抗する
resistant,
意
I
志
can
がある
only
とダ
use
メ
it
っ
when
て
he's asleep, right?
眠っている時にやれってことそれは試したことが
I've
なか
never
った
tried it to be
眠っ
honest.
ているのに
But
返
is
事を
there
する
anyone
人
who
っている
responds to
の
things in their sleep?
たまにいるけど
You'd be surprised, but true,
Nah,
people like
that's-
this are rare. In that case, one would have weakened them until they were about to pass
あ
out.
そう
Oh,
そう
I almost forgot. Drugs or
薬や魔
matrix would
術が
also
かかっ
cause
て
the
いる
bottle
と
to break.
その重さでも割れ
Okay.
るから気をつ
That
けて
doesn't sound convenient at all.
つっかえ
Then what?
それ
then
っ
what
て
good
ほ
is
とんど
it?
役立たずってことじゃない
What won't break the damn thing?
それは青子
A
次第
tool is only as good as the person using it. Alice turned away as she replied, as if the topic no longer mattered to her.
は
As she's unbothered. I
あ
know
アリ
you're
スが
fond of
こういう小
using
道具好きなの
taking
は知っ
tools
て
like
たけど
this.
ね
It is a hobby of
これも
yours or something. Akko asked, hoping Alice would deny it.
多分
Perhaps.
それで
So, are you
どう
going
す
to
るの
take it or leave it? Without answering, Akko dithered a bit before taking the bottle and putting it in her pocket. She figured she might be able to find some use for it. Okay. I really like this song. 2 hours had passed at the clock struck 9. Their conversation had moved from the drawing room to the sunroom, and has maintained into this kind of scene one would not expect in such a mansion. Such a good song. Is that
まあ
Mapo
本当
Tofu?
はね
To be honest, I
飛び
didn't want
丸に任
to
せ
leave
る
it
気
to
はなかったん
Tobimaro
だ
like
けど
this. A hot earthenware pot sat on the table. Akko spat out compliments to no one in particular as she plucked food from it without her chopsticks. Tonight they were eating a traditional Japanese meal that looked out of place in this mansion. When it came to this kind of Japanese hot pot where all one had to do was buy and boil ingredients, it was usually Akko's responsibility. Alice sat across from Akko as she suddenly poked at the pot with a fork.
山城のやつが来るのに
Yamashiro made it a
し
point
ず
to
き
say
くん
that
はまだ
Suzuki
部
had
活に
joined the
入ってい
club.
ないから
It's not like
面
I
倒
have
見
the
てあ
time
げ
or
てくれな
energy
い
to
か
keep
な
track of every
なん
single student. The egg she had plucked was still as silky as baby's bottom, so she had returned it to the pot. She settled for the shirataki noodles instead. She moved her hand. Oh, so Akko
あのバカがバイトで
uses
忙しいのは知
chopsticks
って
and
るわ
Alice uses a fork. I already know that the idiot is constantly busy with
だ
his
からで
jobs.
きるだけ春先
That's
ま
why
で
I
のん
tried
び
my
りして
best
て
to set him up with
あ
the
んな
club
のでも
activities
親身にな
captain
っ
that
てく
he'd
れ
be
そうな部の部
accommodating.
長に当たってみたのにありがとうの一
But
つも
then,
ないっての
never the guy never got it, thanks.
ね聞いてるアリス
Are you even listening, Alice? No. As if her mouth was full, she simply nodded in response. Her expression stated that she had no interest nor opinion on the matter, but she at least appeared to be listening. Satisfied, Akko nibbled on some hand-pinned fish cake. That's a cool screenshot. I don't know why I'm taking
それ
screenshots.
に私
I just can't trust anyone who says he's a great guy. Surprised even Tobimaro was gushing about him.
あろうこ
The
と
only
か
thing he's
飛
great
び
at
丸
is
ま
being
で
in
そん
her
なこ
head.
と口走る始末だし大体
I mean,
あそこ
there's
まで
really
言われて
something wrong
怒り
with
も
him
しな
in
い
his
の
brain
に
if
ど
he
うか
didn't
して
get
るわ
angry after what I said. Her thoughts went to what happened in the student council room earlier that day. She remembered how non-responsive Sojiro had been to her words. His unconcerned face alone was enough for her to swallow the rest of her handpin without chewing it. I thought you would understand, he says. Huh. His words were a lot like those that ended up her childhood. You know it, don't you, Akko?
それでも自分
Through
で
it
あ
all,
り
you
続けら
never
れ
lose
るとい
sight
う
of
こと
who you
は
are.
と
You're
ても
so
強いこ
strong.
となんだよ
Who is that? Who's speaking? Perhaps it was meant as a... Is that her? That's her older sister. Perhaps it was meant as a compliment, but she took it as a patronizing way to pity her, because the person who said it had acted like she was looking at a wounded animal.
あんな
Whatever, who
変態の言って
cares
たこ
what
と
that
なんて
weirdo
今
thinks or
更どうで
says?
もいいけどさ。
That episode might have made her the most confused she had ever been in her life, yet was shocked at young Akko the most was the look of pity on the face of the person she admired the most. You fought. What? Huh? The abrupt comment stopped her in her tracks.
ごめん、聞いてなかった。
Sorry, what you saying? Something about a fight?
あの
Alice nodded.
あなたの感想だけ
What's
じ
she
ゃ状
wearing?
況はよく
I
つ
can't
か
say I
めない
completely
けど。
understand from what you've said,
つまり、
but it does
青
come
子はそ
across
の
as
人
you
に
were
喧
trying
嘩を
to
売り
pick
た
a
かっ
fight
た
with
の
him.
ね。
Alice spit into the very last handpan. Her remark was unexpected but completely on point.
なんでそうなるのよ。
Why did you go there?
私は
I'd
あんな
rather
の
die
と
than
一
spend
秒だっ
another
て
second
関
with
わり
him.
たくないだけだってば。大体それどころじゃないし。
I mean, seriously, girls have no interest in him whatsoever.
会話もこれ以上ないって
I
いうのが
love it if
簡
I've
潔
never
に
had to
切り
say
上げた
anything
し。
about him ever again.
なら
So
どうして
why
今
all
そん
the
な
talk
話を
about
す
him?
るの？
That's so funny, dude. What?
それは
I was
そ
just
の
reporting on today's
あなた
investigation.
に
Something
今
wrong
日
with
の調
that?
査過程を知らせてあげ
What other reasons could Alice be suggesting Akko had to bring it up? It would be several hours later in bed that Akko realized that she had dug her own grave.
いいけど、
No,
私は
not
別に。
really.
ただ、
But does he really bother you
Akko.
that much? Alice ate her hot pot in silence as if she was honoring some sort of sacred ritual. Her face wasn't indifferent as always, but she was secretly enjoying how flustered Akko was. That's funny. Akko remained oblivious to this. Normally she would have noticed immediately, but she was not quite herself at this moment.
本当にっ
Does
て
he really? Well, of course he
そりゃ
does.
そ
I
う
think
よ。
I've said that often enough.
そ
Okay, what specifically about him
具体的には？
do you dislike?
は
Huh? I don't
具
need a
体的
specific
にはって
reason to.
そんなのに理由なんて。
She trailed off as she finally realized how disagreeable she was being. Huh? She could come up with no reason why. Her instincts had told her that she wasn't comfortable with that hick. But why was such a strong reaction? More than anything in the world, Aqua hated emotions without a reason and decision made it with no rationale. I just don't like him. I'm sure there's a good reason for it, I think.
ちゃんとどっかに理由があるんだと
Oh, it's
思
so
うけど。
funny, dude. She became more flustered the more she talked. Unfortunately for her, she could not come up with a coherent reason to hate Sojiro Shizuke. She's in love with Sojiro. It was not his fault that he had zero common sense. It was the fault of the environment he grew up in. In fact, it was admirable that he was trying so hard to adapt to civilized society. As clueless as he might seem, he was not a complete waste of space. If he seemed a bit slow, it was only because his gentle nature compelled him to think before acting. When one looked at everything objectively, the conclusion was obvious. As much as she was loath to admit it, he really was unassuming to do-gooder everyone had him pegged as. I can't believe what I'm thinking. Is there really nothing wrong with him? She's actually in love with him. They were so plenty, so she left it at that for now. The chopsticks she had been using came to a stop. She was getting very annoyed. She's in love. An irrational hatred burned through her head. Unable to come to terms with her feelings, she desperately tried to analyze Sojiro, but her mind only went into more circles. Alice fixed Akko with a deadpan stare. I'm shocked. A small sigh. And look at that drip, dude. This isn't like you, Akko. Look at that drip. Those words were the final blow. Akko felt the floor fall out from under her. She was unable to leave her chair until long after Alice had finished eating and left. Is Ellie in here? No, I thought I heard her. Bum, 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 bum. However, even after getting knocked down, Akko Awazaki was not the one to be kept away. She made short work of clearing up after dinner, and after condescending the first bath of the night to Alice, left the drawing room. Since it was customary in these sorts of mansions to turn the lights off when leaving an empty room, the only lit areas of the house were the drawing rooms and the two girls' bedrooms. The upstairs were enveloped in darkness. Akko briskly made her way to the deepest part of the east wing, along the long corridor illuminated only by the light of the moon, and arrived at her room. The amount of times the word moon is said is pretty cool. All being said, sneak attacks made me sick to my stomach. Oh, flashbang! She had been considering this to be one way down the corridor, perhaps ever since she left the drawing room. The moment she entered her room, she drew her proverbial line
やる
into the
にしても
sand.
隠れ
If
る
I'm
のは
going
な
to
し。
do it, I'm going to do it
正面から堂々と
face to face.
向かい合って理由を言う。
I'll give it to him straight. This was not a concession driven by feelings or sympathy or compassion. For her, it was simply the way things ought to
よ
be.
し、
Okay,
そう
with
だ。
that out of the way, time to go to bed. After selling her resolve, she headed to the study room. Yo, thanks for joining the stream, dude. Playing Witch on the Holy Night. It's a visual novel.
え
Not sure if you're
ーっと、
into them. Let's see.
木曜
Thursday
玉の
shelf.
当時欄。
Winter Solstice
緑
Green
の。
Spine. Without hesitation, she removed one book from the countless volumes of the shelf. The indoctrinary textbook transported her from the Alzaki residence, where she separated into 6 shelves, labeled Monday to Saturday. Akko had organized the books by topic, genre, and purpose, and more or less memorized exactly. Bro, I have no order when I organize my books, man. I should probably do a video on all my manga. I just organize my shit by what looks the neatest. Chief SB. I'm a simple man. I see Mahoyo and I like. Oh, so you've played Witch on the Holy. So this is my first time playing it, dude. All I know is that this is like the first game in like the Naso universe that like sets up everything. I'm a huge Fate stan. I've played most of the Fate games. I love Fate Go. I play almost all of them. I love Fate Stay 9, Fate Zero, Grand Order. I love them all. But I've never played any of their older games. And I know Tsukihime comes out at the end of the month, so I'm trying to get through this as quick as I can before that drops. I'm glad you are another cultured individual. Thanks for joining the stream, dude. Referencing any of this material took her no time at all. It was to be expected from keeper of this study, though this keeper's fitting room was nothing more than a normal small room. Both Akko and Alice had given up all hopes and cluttered mess of library in the annex. Nevertheless, on occasion, Akko would have no option other than to give Alice a heads up and visit in when the study room did not meet her needs. I really hope I don't have to go over. I'll be honest, I love Akko's expressions, dude. She's so like energetic. She does so many expressions, dude. It's so funny. Akko placed the thick green book down and took a seat. The desk she sat at was sturdy but uninviting. It was that sort of furniture girls her age grew attached to, but she liked the minimalist elegance nonetheless. She flipped lightly through the book's old worn pages.
アリスみたいな結
I
界
still
は
can't imagine anything
私
like
にはまだ
Alice's
無理
Bound
だ。
the Field.
人払いはその場所自体
I
に
guess
体
I'll
が
just
あ
have
って
to
な
find
ん
a
だ。
place off the beaten track. The mountains. The woods? Let me see. Let's read this. Mahoyo sets up Tsukihime big time. Oh, okay. Mahoyo sets up Tsukihime big time. Like those two VNs basically explain how magic works in the entire Nasu verse, including FGL. You see, I've always like my introduction was Fate Zero, then I watched Fate Stay Night, Unlimited Blade Works, and then I immediately started playing Fate Grand Order. And then after that, I got into Apocrypha. I saw a little bit of Extella. I've seen some of the other stuff. I watched like a handful of Kara no Kyokai, or was it Garden of Sinners? But I've never played any of these games, dude. I just know these were like cult classics before they got like localizations. And I'm trying to play all this. That way I can have a good like foundation of this entire universe. Because I know Fate Stay Night is getting an English port, right? After like 20 years. And I want to play through all the endings and like I want to experience it, you know? I want to be able to say I am a Nasu stan. Like I want to be able to fully say like I am a Fate enjoyer. I am a Nasu enjoyer. Dude, I'm so glad you know more about this than me, dude. Thank you for filling me in. So this sets up the entire Nasu-verse, including FGL. Okay, thank you. Thank you for filling that in. The Skull building's empty at night. She was looking for a place that would be, except for the worst of luck, void of people allowing her to forego the unusual of
今
magecraft.
らの壁だの魔
Walls of
力の
thorns and
霧だの
magical mists are so
そう
indirect.
いう回りく
If
どい
I
のも
want
な
to
んだ
cut
し
off
な。
any route of escape, I need some
タ
place
イルの
flashy and
立つ
obvious,
ってい
both
う
in
なら
purpose and in looks.
もっとこう見た目にも状況的にも派手な方が効果的だし。
Muttering about how there would have to be some basic spells that fit her needs, she continued to flip through the pages. It goes without saying that she was looking for a way to deal with the witness from the previous night. Magecraft's uses were many, but not all-encompassing. Fundamentally, Magecraft was good for making things a phenomenon that existed already, while more or less bypassing the time and resources conventional means would require. It was, however, unable to manifest phenomena that would be impossible in the world. Okay, so it's like they can't just poop shit out of existence. It was essentially an equivalent exchange. I understood that reference. I've seen Fullmetal Alchemist. It was essentially an equivalent exchange that used a variety of shortcuts. A phenomenon made possible by human hands actualized by an individual's powers. That was generally what made Trev for us. To give a simple example, if Akko were so inclined, she could make an entire lake appear at the mansion. However, it had to be something that existed within this world. Nothing, not even the smallest matter, could escape this unbreakable law. Even if Akko were to release a level of heat on par with an F-15 fighter jet's afterburners, that event would only be possible if the circuit named Akko Azaki acted as a temporary input variable in a magical formula. Oh, trust, this world is massive. Wait till you realize that the entire Fate Extraverse is connected, but it's still its own thing and has arguably the best iteration of Gilgamesh. Fate Extra? What's Fate Extra? Hold up, I need to look that up. It's not Extella, right? Oh, you know what? That's the... Weren't they remaking this game? I remember it was a PSP game, right? And then like 4 years ago, they announced they were remaking it, and then the game just went radio silent. Right? Okay, so this has the best iteration of Gilgamesh? That's kind of hype, dude. I'll be honest, I love me Gilgamesh. If he were to call me a mongrel, I'd bow down before him, dude. I'll leave it at that. Okay, but the world is massive. Wait till you realize the entire Fate Extra universe is connected by its own things. All right, bro. That's so fucking sick. Yeah, dude. I played Fate Grand Order for like. I played on its second year. I played it its first year and then I uninstalled it, and then I lost all my characters and then I replayed it year 2, and I played it for like 2 to 3 years straight, and now I've been on and off. I usually just go back for like farming events, logins, this and that, or whenever there's an anniversary banner or the guarantees. But all right, that's sick, dude. The deprived equivalence was simply a value that already occurred in reality. If there were variations, the equation did not exist elsewhere in reality, the spell would not be valid. That's a sick name, by the way, Chief SB. The imaginary element known as magical energy was like a lie that could only slip its fantasy through the network of order at the moment of ignition. The imaginary element known as magical energy was like a lie that could only slip into fantasy through the network of order at the moment of ignition. What? Giving form to the non-existent illusions invading reality was something that the universe did not allow. However, still, what was it? You can combine the imaginary factor either with pretty much anything else since it's not real itself. Still, what is it? You can combine the imaginary factor either with pretty much anything else since it's not real itself. Anything composed entirely of magical energy is little more than an illusion and will quickly dissipate. Even with a typical field like a wall of thorns generally starts with the user planting thorns first before using magical energy to grow and strengthen them in an instant. Oh, so magic. That's why she said she planted the trees, right? Oh, and get ready for the anime Fate Strange Fate. You know what? I saw the OVA episode, and my friend confirmed and said it's gonna get its own anime. Because when I saw it, I thought it was just the OVA special. It was so badass when fucking Gilgamesh. I was about to say Aikido. This isn't One Piece. When Gilgamesh and Enkidu, when they like clash in the sky, dude, it was so fucking sick. And then Skahawk comes out. Oh my god, it was so badass. I'm so fucking ready for that. Get ready for the anime Fate Strange Fate. It's sort of a wait. It's a sequel to what? It's sort of a sequel to Hollow Ataxia. You can find the manga and read it. That's the one in freaking Wild State to the least. It's a sequel. It's sort of a. Oh my god, it's so big. It's so good. It's so big. I need like a video that explains the entire Fate universe. I know Giga explains it pretty good, but I know there's more to it. It's so much more in depth, dude. That's wild. I'm gonna note all this shit down, dude. That way I can go back and have this on my backlog, dude. I'm down. Even in typical field like a wall. Oh, I read that. In the end, magical energy is just an easy to use fuel source, while acting as a firework that ignites a phenomenon. Look at that face. That's a funny screenshot. Or so they say. Imaginary factors all well and good. Well, all I can do is connect a basic circuit and process energy into a projectile. So she just shoots. Laughing to herself, she looked for a bounded field or something similar, more suited to her current ability. Yeah, it is. I fucking love how expressionist she is, dude. The identity of the witness was still unknown, but if they were a classmate of Akko, she had any number of pretexts by which to lure them out. The problem was after that. Then it becomes a question of precaution. If I don't take care of him in one blow, he might slip away. To be honest, she wasn't confident she could handle this smoothly without Alice's support. But Akko saw no reason to ask for her help given the target in question was a regular bystander. Flighting as she still had her pride as a mage. I originally played this game when it came out, and I was playing at the airport, and I fell asleep on the plane. But I remember I took so many screenshots of all her derpy and expression faces, dude. It was so funny, dude. She continued to turn through the pages rhythmically. In the midst of the fluttering sounds of thumbing through the volumes, Akko suddenly stopped her fingers at a certain page. Found it. She smiled to herself. It was a simple formula that she had tucked away somewhere in the recesses of her memory. A spell of simple destruction. A cage, that's all I need to make. Yo, thanks for also joining the stream, dude. Thank you for stopping by. We're trying to beat Witch of the Holy Night before Tsukihime drops. It's the oldest trick in the book that any hunter worth their salt will use. She placed a bookmark in the book, closed and got up to return her room. You're gonna have fun also with... I can't read that. You're going to also have fun with Art Kuwait once Tsukihime comes, top tier waifu. Oh, it's one of the characters. Is it the one in the trailer? The blonde one? The one that kind of looks like Saber, right? So one in like the white outfit. Through the wind, she saw her in the night, a girl staring back with a cold-hearted expression. So far, I only seen the chick with blue hair. Arc is the blonde one. Okay, so I only know the chick with the blue hair, and then Arc. The girl's face was hers, the expression's undoubtedly her own. I'm so hyped, bro. Shit comes out next week, dude. She began planning how to erase the witness. For her to say it was something as elaborate as a plan was overkill, this was just a job. That's so fucked up. She's gonna go kill her classmate and it's just a job. She was going to make a cage and her lure prey into it. There was no getting around it, premeditated violence. Blue hair is Seal. She's like a... said like Seal. Oh, okay. So there's Seal and then there's Arcuway. I wonder if Alice is done with her bath. I remember I've seen the opening when it was first announced 2 years ago. The only thing I know about that game, it has 2 routes. But I know the original game has like 5 routes, and I don't know. Like, is that it? Or is it just they like condense everything into 2 routes, and then like this is like the definitive Tsukihime? Because I remember I read something from like it was like an also quote that he planned to make more. I don't know. It's confusing, dude. Seeing it from the outside, because I haven't been keeping up with all this. Now I'm like, I can see why Fate gets a little confusing. Oh my god, okay, so they're making the other 3 routes like a second part. Okay, so it'll be like Tsukihime 2 for me, since I've never played it. Alright. She mumbled out loud as the baffled returned some more. Alright, that's so fucking hype. But it's been 2 years, right? Do visual novels take that long to make? That's kind of wild, dude. Alright. About 20 minutes have... Well, I mean, game development takes so long as it is, man. It's so crazy, dude. About 20 minutes had passed and she gave Alice the privilege of using the hot water first. Alice tended to bathe quickly, fishing well under 10 minutes. Her roommate was the type that could not understand the spirit of the bath, treating as if nothing more than necessity for looking after the one's body. For Alice, they never announced when, right? Part 2 comes out, but they are making the other 3 routes. For Alice, the concept of staying at a hot springs inn sounded more like a chore than anything, though it is rearranged. Aqua had agreed. Yup, it's just the translations that take the most time, since the translations gotta make sense. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I know going from Japanese to English is kind of hard, right? I guess it's my time to is that the drawing room, lights on? It was unusual for Alice to sit in the drawing room after her bath. On nights where she had nothing to discuss, it was her side to return directly to her bedroom. Damn, man. That's hype. Alright, I can't get greedy. I can't ask for it right away, because I know it's going to be a while before I beat them all. Now, they haven't announced the release date for the second part. I think I could be wrong. You know what? I'm going to Anime Expo this year. It's going to be kind of hype if they announce something Tsukihime over there. I have faith. They're going to be like, hey, guys, Tsukihime just came out this week, because I know the panel's on the 6th. July 6th, I'm going to be there. They'll be like, hey guys, Tsukihime just came out this week. Who bought it? And everyone's gonna be like, oh. And then like, alright guys, we have one more thing. It's super early in development, and it'll be like Tsukahime, and it'll be like the other 3 parts. And then I'm gonna be in the audience recording it, and I'll be like, watch, come back on July 6th. I'll let you know, bro. I'll let you know, brother. I'll let you know if they announced it or not. Alice, are you in here? And if there's no recordings, I'll just say it on the video. Alice, are you in here? Alice nodded. With no book in hand, it appeared that Alice had been waiting for Akko. That's such a cute outfit. So that's how it is. She really had no faith in me, does she? Akko scratched her head in exasperation. Was it that Alice was worried about her or had no faith in her? Her expression was so calm that Akko could hardly figure out what she was thinking. I have a plan. Want to hear it? I can tell what it is by the look on your face. It's good that you're no longer wavering, but you must do something about to tell your others, Akko. Hey, badass. Also, FGO people will be there since anniversary. Yeah. I'm going to the fake Grand Order panel. I just need to figure out someone to babysit my puppy. Because since we're not going to be here, somebody needs to take care of her. Ark is coming as well twice. Wait, what do you mean Ark is coming as well twice? Okay. Oh, shit. Yeah, she's going to be... Yeah, I know... Okay, I have Kaleidoscope. I know she's the 7th anniversary. Which is also kind of what I'm playing it, because I want to like her character all the more. So when I play it, I get her. Yeah, she's the anniversary servant, right? Alice let out a small sigh. It was unusual for Alice to make such a display of her disappointment. So I assume you play FGO, right? Bro, I'm like on Lost Boat 5.5. I'm not even caught up. I'm like a year and a half behind in content. I don't like the sneaking attacks. I'm going to do it fairly. And only after I told him why straight to his face. Yup, okay. I'll be honest. The way there's absolutely no trouble for it. I just... It's not that I got bored of the game. I got to the point of the game where I like 3-turning everything. You know, just fucking double Scotty or double Castoria. That like if it takes me more than 3 turns, I get so impatient and annoyed. I'm like, I should be better at this by now. And that's kind of why I'm behind. I'm on LB6, about to finish it. My Castoria has been working, yeah. Yeah, sounds about right. Why would I have it? And this is only a matter of personal preference after all. However, you're worried about that I'll mess it up, right? My accuracy hasn't exactly been settled lately. So I was thinking about how to cover my badass with the location. You're worried that I'll mess up, right? My accuracy hasn't been exactly been settled lately. So I was thinking about how to cover my bases with the location. I can't throw up a field like you, so I was thinking of doing it somewhere where he physically can escape. Any ideas? Alright, gotta go. Hey man, thanks for joining the stream, dude. I'll remember you, dude. Thank you, Chief. Thank you for joining. Bless you. Thank you so much, dude. Have fun, man. Enjoy your day, dude. Alice nodded in thought. The finger that gently resounded on her lips indicated that the question was to her liking. What about the mirrors? You could easily seal him in the house of mirrors for all eternity. Seriously, that's her idea. She frowned at Alice's bad taste. It was the kind of idea her roommates found to be inspired, but Akko was out of the question. Akko was looking for natural bound fields she could prepare, not to roam bordering of true magic that she couldn't create to begin with. Then you'll choose otherwise, I suppose, but please, whatever you do, do not bring him here. You don't need to tell me that. But actually, yeah. A house of mirrors might actually work. Did my thing freeze? Oh no, it didn't freeze. Akko smirked and shifted her balance away from the wall she was resting on. Thanks, Alice. I just figured out the whole plan. I guess it's always best to talk to someone when you're in a bind. That's funny. Now in a good mood, Akko retreated from the drawing room. Alice tried and failed to visualize what kind of blueprints Akko had drawn up in her mind, but whatever it was, it appeared to be a thorough kind Akko was good at. Akko headed for the bathroom, humming to herself as she went. A year and a half of sharing a living space had taught Alice something. When Akko Ayozaki was in good mood, she only deepened trouble who could follow. Huh? You want to know if I'm okay with letting Akko handle this? Oh, who the fuck is talking to her? You want to know if I'm okay with letting Akko handle this on her own? Is it a bird talking? Oh, look at the cute little blue bird. It was unclear how long the bird had been in the drawing room. Chirping at Alice, the robin-like bird pranked across the furniture as if it were his property. Yup, I suppose she said that she wanted to do it alone, and I do want her to know that she has my every faith still. The girl in black raised her arms. The bird chirping once again in line out of her outstretched affection fingers. Suffice to say, trust and faith are two very different things. The bird puffed out and sought trust and agreement, and Akko was none the wiser to her roommate rather unsettling comments. Okay. So we're back at school. The following day was a typically overcast one. The day's classes ended as if they had started uneventually. Winter break was just around the corner and with it final exams. Although Miyazaki High prided itself on discipline, it was still a private school which promoted a culture of independence among its students. Industrious students had a place to explore that side of themselves under the guardianship of the student council president. More easygoing students could spend their time after school as if they wished as long as they were mindful of personal responsibilities. The fact that the poster boy of independence was the student council vice president indicated just how vast the spectrum was. Aozaki, you in here? Toby Matsugi threw open the door and starlight student council room, the room and location for their secret meetings. Despite all the appearances, he was student council vice president, who also happened to be the poor soul responsible for executing the student council's dirty work. One person was waiting for him in the cramped room. The student council president, Akko Ozaki, sat impetuously in a folding chair, glaring at Tobimaro in his boisterous entrance. This room is freezing as usual, really needed by a heater. So as not to succumb to Akko's oppressive silence, Tobimaro opened with some casual small talk. Thank you for coming, let's get to business. Do you know why I've asked you here? I have an idea. What's up with the formality, Ozaki? Pretty cool to talk shop right away all the time, you know? Tobimaro closed the door and sat down across Akko. He was holding a blue envelope. Yup, and loose lips sink ships. Might remember that once you get into the real world. Alright, I'll remain. Wait a sec, nice try. Tobimaro was halfway to agreeing with Akko before he caught himself and beginning to shake his head. As much as Tomorrow enjoyed the lack of red tape in his new line of work, he was not ready to turn full spy on his first day on the job. So then, are you done with investigations? Yeah, I finished the last interview just now. The details are in the envelope along with the file you gave me. He tossed the envelope onto the table. 3-1. Good. Akko picked it up and began to scan through the documents that were inside. She entered her own little world, not sparing the slightest bit of attention for Tobimaro. If ignoring other people were a skill, she would be a master at it. Ahem. What? I just wanted to ask you one thing. Yeah, and? The room was filled with a chilling silence. Akko continued reading without an ounce of emotion upon her face. Though Tobimaro kept up an air of indifference, his stare remained fixed and tension on her. Do you get a kick out of doing this kind of thing, Aozaki? Of course not. What's so fun about gathering info I hardly even get to use? Right. Just wanted to check. Whether or not he was convinced, Tobimaro stood up from his chair with a disappointment expression. You'll figure this out just by reading it all, but I wasn't able to dig up anything. By all indications that there weren't any students in the area the day before yesterday, it's not like I can say that for sure though. No longer concerned over his task, Tobimaro headed towards the door, as if to say it was out of his hands. Oh, and one more thing. There was one student that was included in your dragnet. You forgot to include an out of the term transfers. Akko raised her head ever so slightly. He was right. The recent transfer student was not included within the scope of her investigation. So I haven't looked as Sonoji. Though considering it's him, it's safe to assume that he was working late. Or wait, it would be if he hadn't have mentioned something about seeing a murder or whatever. Oh yes, so what's in this that? Seeing a murder or whatever, I told him that was probably just a bad dream. Tobimaro cheerfully left the student council room. What? Simultaneously, Akko felt her fingers go numb, and the document she was holding spilled all over the table. It can't be, that's not possible. She broke out into a cold sweat and tried to tell herself that there must be some kind of mistake. However, the uncomfortable feeling in her gut would simply not go away, perhaps because her intuition was almost always right at times like this. Okay. I forgot I'll update this. You gotta be kidding me. And yet, she knew what she had to do. She would not have hesitated to kill Tobimaro if he had been the witness. But what if it was who she was thinking of? Just considering the possibility caused her blood to run cold. Oh, because she's in love. Akka put her forehead in her hands and began to brood. And then suddenly, let us talk choice. You would always be faced with choices. A virtuous fool and a wicked sage. You cannot save both. You must pick one. This is the freedom granted to you. 2 years earlier, Akka muttered the words offered by her grandfather the day she replaced her elder sister as its successor, and loud a sigh of Lamia. This has to be a joke. She laughed at her own intuition, but it was no joke. If only those words had never been said. Akka locked up the student council room and left for the day. Calmly, as though nothing whatever had happened, she greeted the students as they passed in the halls. She was almost shocked by how natural she seemed. There was still plenty of students at the school. The grounds were noisy with the chatting of students who had finished the day but had yet to head home. Others still had club activities. The gray sky looked ready to pour, but nobody seemed to pay it any mind. Amidst the calmer, Akka hastened to the school gate. She passed by some students in animated conversation. They seemed to be talking about their after-school plans. Apparently, they were adamant about maximizing their free time. She could not figure out how she could possibly so responsibly focus on fun, but at the same time, she was in no mood to make fun of or feel envious of them. The screenshot. 2 short years prior, she had been just like them. I wonder if I'm becoming desensitized to it all. She retied her scarf, this time more tightly to give off an air of solitude, but she was foolish. She was fooling no one. After all, what people who feign solitude are really mistaking is rejection. Solitude, rejection. They're two sides of the same coin. The area by the school gate was busier than usual. A group of boys appeared to be huddled behind it. Their transparent attempt to discreet in terms of both location and loudness of voices did nothing to hide the fact that they were noisily arguing about a girl standing alone on the other side of the street. Oh, Alice came to school! What? Oh, she's so cute. Look at that. Look at that outfit. Oh, I'm fast forwarding! The girl was clothed in a black cape. At first glance, I was going to be mistaken for normal attire, but those from Mizaki could tell that she wore a uniform of a prestigious school of a prestigious girls' school. That's a screenshot. Was that the fast forward button? Said school had no connection to Mizaki High in any way, shape, or form. The two schools were miles apart, both physically and spiritually. A member of the school student policy was a rare sighting, and the majority were forced to live in the school dorms. Rain Girls Academy had a reputation as school princesses, and it was rare indeed for one to be slumbering within common folk. The common folk. That alone would have been enough to cause the ruckus among the boys, but this girl looked at the epitome of class. One could not help but describe the standing figure as charming. The way she silently and motionlessly waited for a reminiscent of meticulously composed of portrait. Akka took one look at her before instantly recalling the one word solitude. Okay, you lame brains don't have anywhere to be ignorant. Disgusted, Akka barked through the gate. At this point, she would normally head home, but today she crossed the street towards the waiting girl. Oh crap, is that the student council president? Damn it, she's trying to chase her word. Let the girl be, she has the right to stand there if she wants to. She's gonna go nuclear, the president versus the angel. What gives, man? Who cares if she's from another school? She's not even on school property, right? Right, guys? Don't mess with Madam Akka, you're just asking to be smacked. Ha. The boys ran their mouths behind her back. Not in the mood to shut them up, Akka walked right up to the girl and offered an informal wave. Something matter, Alice? I told you before, there's nothing of interest for you here. Oh, because she's trying to find who's the one that saw. For real? Nani? You guys are friends? Akka heard the boy by the gate, lost her collective minds, and did her best to ignore them. I wanted to be sure, but... Akka. Those people are a nuisance. You think I'll chase them off? In contrast to Alice's small voice, Akko spoke loud and clear. Naturally, this was on purpose, so as to deal with the riffraffs by the gate all at once. Crap, she's coming this way. Everybody run! Hey, stop pushing me, move it, I'm out. But that doesn't look like they're tight. Maybe we could get the press to introduce us? Haha, rookie mistake. You still haven't experienced the realities of the battlefield? On second thought, don't let the dreams be dreams. At your funeral? Perhaps because too many of them had gathered in one place, the mob entered a frenzy and panic as they tried to escape. Aqua addressed them all. Well, what do we have here? If this is the go home early club, would you mind telling me what you're all doing gathered in a place like this with no club activities to attend? Eep. That's a funny expression. The student council president started daggers at the boys. That's funny. Any case, exams are coming up. Oh. It sure will be horrible if indeed you're going home to study. We're loitering around just so all going other students get counted. It's not like a single one of you had the guts to even go up to her and say something. Now one of them was brave enough to admit that this hit the nail on the head. If any of them had such courage, they would have already been chatting the young lady up. Oh, I think I forgot something in the classroom. If I had known it was going to end like this, I would have at least gone down trying. What if we go borrow binoculars for the astronomy club? I'm sure we can get a good view from the roof. What the creeps? The astronomy club doesn't have binoculars on it. If anybody does, it would be the Wild Bird Society. Haha, the president destroyed those last months. If you had enough time for bird watching, you have enough time to find a girlfriend, chicken. Haha, find a girlfriend? Sorry, Zaki. I'm going to cut out through the back exit. I gotta get to it later, press. See you tomorrow. And with those oh so charming remarks, the boys scattered with their nails between their legs. You seem to be enjoying yourself, Akko. How could you tell? That's funny. Akko's responses slipped out all too easily. In truth, there was not that many bad apples in Miyazaki High, and dealing with them wasn't really that bad. So? What brings you down here? Did you find something out? I identified the traces of the witness from within the field. All we need to do now is put a name to them. I see, Alice. How long have you been waiting here? Since school was dismissed. So she had been here for roughly an hour. Standing in the same place for an hour would be taxing for someone as sensitive as cold as Alice. I'm sorry, if you would have told me. Don't be. I'm just doing it because I wanted to. Oh, she cares about her. As she spoke, her black eyes were fixed upon the gate and the students passing through the gate. She had likely been observing the gate in the manner for the past hour. You weren't waiting for me, were you? Well, I'm here now anyway, so we can go. Alice nodded in assent. If Alice was still here, it meant she had not found the witness yet. If she had found the student, Alice would have already gone home ahead of Akko and begun searching the student's background. Nothing came up on my end. She reported the results to Toby Mar's investigation. Alice remained silent. With that, conversation ended, leaving them two silently endure the freezing wind. The silent stakeout dragged out endlessly. Students continued past the gate, each shocked at the sight of the unusual combo, and headed home. After 20 minutes, Akko left a sigh escape her mouth, perhaps from the boredom, perhaps the cold, or perhaps from both. Hey, on our way home, do you want to drop by Dawn? Aw, they're gonna go and eat. Akko quickly turned to Alice to catch her reaction. Dawn was the name of one of Akko's favorite coffee shops. Yes. Offering no clear indication as to whether she was critical of Akko's blaze attire or agreeing to her whims, Alice's gaze shifted ever so slightly. Akko followed her stare. Hey, Ayozaki, are you meeting someone here too? The sudden voice took her off guard. There was only one person who spoke with that gentle, good-natured tone. Ooh. Of course it'd be him. Turning her back to Alice, Akko moved her focus to the newly appeared student. Can I help you with something? All politeness flew out the window. Already in bad mood, Akko mood plummeted the longer she looked at Sojiro. The subtlety of her expression, however, was lost on him. No, thanks. I was just on my way to the station to meet the swimming club captain, and I wanted to say thanks. Well, that was completely unexpected. Thanks for joining a club. Akko had a hunch that he was about to say something brainless. And by thanks, you mean payback, right? Fortunately, Sojiro was completely unaware of the more sinister implications to the word payback. I'm not sure what you mean by that, but it's no big deal. It's just that the swimming club captain said that the club doesn't get that busy until summer. Sojo was just about to thank her for recommending a club that would not take up too much of his time. Aww, when Akko cut him off with an expression of disinterest. Well, of course, I couldn't very well introduce you to a club that I knew you would never turn out to. All I did was mention some that even someone as busy as you could join. That's sweet of her. I see, very efficient. His open admiration for her stopped Akko's will to fight. Finding a suitable club and negotiating with its captain hadn't been an efficient use of her time at all. Anyways, you really helped me out. I just want to say thanks. Sojo gratefully dipped his head, but not before the flustered Akko stepped up. Give me a break. You're just going to give me a headache if you do that. Alice is like, oh, she's in love. So how's the swimming club? Does it seem like a good fit? An awkwardness infiltrated her previously sharp gaze. Sojo was able to pick up on the odd change in her behavior, but could not divine its reason. So he simply started with what he knew so far and reopened the most recent information he had. Oh, I got kicked out of the... He already got kicked out. I got kicked out of the club already. Nani? What? Why? Akko instinctively shouted at the expected response. Like a human jack-in-the-box. This unexpected development threw her mind into a tizzy. She was momentarily floored and complicated her feelings, so she had been wrestling with. But you just said that you were on your way to meet the captain. Yeah, the captain's taking me to a heated pool in Yashioro? I can read that. Yashigori? Sojiro stated this very matter of factly to the still reeling Akko. I'm not following. Things seem to be going fine. Why would they kick you out? Oh, that's easy because he can't swim. Akko reached up with her fingers and pinched the bridge of her nose as she processed his answer. Shizuki, do you remember my question from yesterday? The one where I asked you whether you preferred running or swimming? I'm confident I remember your answer, but please repeat it to me. You said you'd prefer swimming, right? Look at she's so flustered. Yes, since I was little, I've always wanted to learn, and I'm already really good at running. So? Her energy spent, Akko finally understood. Apparently, they would have taken me in and trained me from square one if I were in my first year. Sadly, it sounds like they can't recruit a second year like me who sings like a rug, especially with only 3 months left in the school year. But the captain was really nice about it and even offered to teach me how to swim. Sojiro's words were spoken from a place of joy, a fact that failed to reach Akko. Ha, so in other words, I tried to pump off defective goods. I'll never be able to show my face to the swimming club captain again. Can't they just use magic? Wait, but isn't the captain a... Suzuki, the swimming club captain is? She stopped herself short of a girl. She was afraid of how that might look, that she might not be able to rein herself if she started. You know what? It doesn't matter. I understand now, so you can just go. Far, far from here, okay? I just can't deal with you right now. Alex is just quiet in the background. Tobimaru said the same thing. Come to think of it, he said that you were unusually tired yesterday and today. Did something happen? Kind of, but it's fine. It seems to have resolved itself. Anyways, how do I look to you, Suzuki? Do I really look that exhausted? Why had she asked him this? Burning out things for no reason and on impulse, this was not unusual for Akko. Perhaps it was because she realized that this would be their last chance to have a normal conversation. After a few moments of contemplation, Sojiro conjured up a grin that cut straight through the tension. Well, I would say you look more lively than you do tired, like a wolf that's been forced to plow fields for a long time, but is excited to finally go on a hunt again. He seemed so cheerful, like he was so happy for her. Aww, I fucking love their chemistry. Without thinking, Akko's hands went to her cheeks. Is she blushing? Akko's hands went to her cheeks. If what he said was true, then she was grinning from ear to ear. There was just no way she would have made such a mistake. Anyways, thanks again. See you tomorrow. Perhaps still not comfortable enough to wave to her. He said his goodbye sincerely, and his voice and smile and took his leave. Wait, I have a question for you. Then you can go. Akko called out after him. Her voice was so cold that admonished herself for having been somewhat verbal earlier. Yeah? This is just a hypothetical question. Let's say you're on the brink of starvation and right in front of you are two animals also starving. Someone gives you a gun and tells you to shoot one of them. Oh my god. The one on the right is the lion, the one on the left is the kitten. What do you do? It was a fable-like moral dilemma, especially the way in which it was cruel and rather preachy. The kind that if you thought too hard about, you would never find an answer. Sojiro answered quickly and calmly. I don't think I cheated at all. You asked me what I do, right? And come on, all three of us are starving. He was not in the least fazed by the dilemma. He gave the most innocent response, so innocent in fact that it would give anyone pause. You're going to live a long life, Suzuki. Whoa, you think so? I think that's the first time anyone has ever said that to me. He has to be a magecraft, right? If he was up in the mountains all on his own, adoring his face with a smile woolly out of sync with his comment. What the heck is that supposed to mean? She regretted stopping him. If only she had just watched him go, this conversation would have never happened. Sergeant Suzuki made his way down the slope street. Today, just like every day, he probably had to work late again. Only Aqua and Alice remained while Alice doing she could just simply blend in. That harmless hick really throws me for a loop. She's blushing. Aqua clenched her right fist tightly as she cursed out loud, aiming to prevent herself from screaming at the top of her lungs. Whether that scream would be directed towards Sojiro or towards herself was another matter entirely. Aqua. Aqua heard Alice's soft voice behind her. Aqua knew what she was going to say, as she had known for the entire time. Ever since Alice, having shown no reaction to any of the other students, changed her expression upon seeing Sojiro. You don't need to say it, it's him, right? The witness? Her voice was cold as ice. It was the voice of someone talking about a complete stranger. The lion and the kitten. There were pros and cons to choosing either of those animals, the point being that she had asked him to choose one of them. In terms of risk, the lion was the more dangerous choice. The instant the gun was pointed at it, there was a chance that it would fight back. Those who choose the lion required more courage, but also a sense of guilt that came with holding a gun that would be forgotten. Lions were fierce creatures, a poor excuse to shoot an animal, perhaps, but one thing certainly helped elevate the guilt. But what about the kitten, the weaker creature? It goes without saying that the kitten would be easier to target of the two, but choosing it would be a disquieting decision for anyone. Even if the kitten had no chance to survive, it was too senseless to carry out. And to Aqua, Sojiro was that choice. I knew it was him too. When she had felt the sinking feeling in the student council room, she ignored it. There was no getting around what must be done, she told herself. Until that is, Sojiro went and said that he did, causing her resolve to waver. But the discomfort in her chest did not stem from any guilt may have been felt. She could care less for Sojiro. He was weak and was incredibly easy to deal with. Yet for some reason, she could not dispel her reservations. A transfer student who moved to the city from the middle out of nowhere with no family to speak of. Few would notice if she were to suddenly disappear compared to a person of someone renowned. If she were to kill him, it would be as simple as wringing a cat's neck. And all this served just to piss her off. It was too lucky, like everything was neatly handed to her. She wanted to just drop kick it right into orbit. I can't believe it. I hate it. This isn't how it's supposed to be. Oh. Why am I like this? Standing behind her, Alice heard all of the muttering. Nevertheless, she seemed to ignore it and said, he had something wrapped around his neck. A wholly unrelated topic. Thank you, someone's finally talking about this. 4 chapters in, Akko returned to her senses. His neck? Yes, I wonder if it had something to do with being rejected by the swimming club. No, that was already before. Alice had put some thought into it as if it had a deeper meaning to her somehow. Now that you mention it, I saw him wearing the same thing the first time we met. I must have missed it because he always had his collar done up. The conversation turned to idle nonsense, and though it solved none of his current problems, it did help calm Akko's frail nerves. Thanks, Alice. I'm good. I'm ready to go. Let's strike while the iron's hot and end this before he spreads any rumors. Pumped once more, Akko turned her back to the school gate. For now, they would retire to the mansion and prepare for battle. That's a cool screenshot. Dun, dun. I think that's my favorite song in this game. Dun, dun. The calm piano sound. Sure, but when and where do you plan to kill him? She said quietly so as not to overwhelmed by anybody else. Normally, Akko had to rein in the sight of Alice on the opening of the wear, but this was far from a normal situation. That's a pretty cool screenshot. Tonight, as for the place, we shall meet him in the land of dreams. She gave a fearless laugh. A strangely pleasant sound like the kind that would make meeting. I skipped like 2 words. Did we just finish chapter 4? Hey, we finished chapter 4! Hell yeah, let's save it right there. Okay, I'm back. I went with my puppy for a bit before continuing the next chapter. Ready, Ellie? We're gonna play so much of the Holy Night together. Ready? Okay. We're on chapter 5. Let me try and hold the controller at the same time. Night of the Witches. Oh, this is the fighting chapter. Oh, part 1. Night of the Witches 1. Soldier returned to his apartment on foot as per routine under a blanket of clouds in the night sky. The rusty tears of his apartment building clamped with each step. Out of the corner of his eyes, he could see the bicycles parked in the apartment buildings on the outer wall. He debated the pros and cons of a bicycle, how much easier life would be versus the expense of the convenience versus the necessity. But in the end, decided one was not right for him just now. Why are you biting? Clenching the bag of the plate under his arm, he took out the keys of his residence. A bike sure would be convenient, but it's not like. A bike sure would be convenient, but it's not like. He tilted his head in confusion. More and more he found himself proceeded with such random thoughts when the real issue at hand was deciding what to do with the apples he had received. You look so tired and calm. I know, it's really hot today. He placed the paper bags by the sink and switched on the lights. It was just after 10 in the evening. With the end of term exam just around the corner, he had come home an hour earlier than usual. As he made back for the kitchen to pick up the apples and snacks on, he had found an envelope stuffed in the mailbox. Hi, what's up? The envelope had no name, return address, or stamps. Inside it was a single piece of paper, and he had only the sender's name and a short message. It reads, "There is something we need to talk about tonight. It's important, so I'll be waiting. Needless to say, keep this a secret. A consigned... Do you want to go down? Do you want to go down, or do you want to stay up here for a little bit?" A concise order neatly written. It was signed by Ako Ayozaki. She had been considerate enough to enclose a detailed map of the meeting place. Are you falling asleep? Puzzled, he cooked his head up to the side and then headed out the door. Afterward, upon the room sold, tenant leaving the premise. Wait, upon the room sold. Oh, okay, the room, not the apartment building. Upon the room sold, tenant leaving the premise, the envelope burst into flames and evaporated without a trace, as though it had never existed in the first place. Why do you always lean on your shoulders like that? Do 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 do. By the late 80s, Japan's post-war economic boom has somewhat stabilized, as the city experienced a period of steady growth. The city's modernization marched on, and the Japan Railway Trail Station, and a symbol of the new era, neared completion. At Miyazaki's neighboring town of Yasaragi, a new symbol of its own was about to be born. What was going to be born? That does not look good. Do you want to come down? Okay, alright. We're going to put you down. Can I just hold you for 1 more minute? Yasugori bred in Kittyland. It was Miyazaki's worst investment. Okay, let's put you down. It would be dubbed the fool's gold of the economic bubble, of a relic of a bygone age. The city lacks aspiration and sophistication. 10 years ago, Yasugori renowned Toketsu Baku Company ran factories all across the nation. Its property was a middle-aged gentleman, then aged 56, by the name of Yurikiko Tokitsu, known affectionately by most as Toppen. He took it upon himself to begin development on an estate on the outskirts of Yasugori and broke grounds of a recreational wonder that he had hoped to be the pride of Miyazaki City. The long-awaited opening came in 1981. After 3 years of investment, the local amusement park, full of all kinds of hopes and dreams, began a short-lived venture. It covered more than 85 square acres. It magically merry-go-round dazzling all passed throughout the city park's gates. Its roller coaster twisted and turned around the edges of the park like a wrestling Japanese dragon. Its ferry wheels packed beyond necessity and gimmicks who is said to have tested the limits of modern engineering. It's perfect, infused with everything amusement parks could ever need. Old Yorikiko looked upon his creation and smiled. Only boosting his confidence was the fact that it was a grand opening of stage during a period of prosperity, the springtime of the world. But what? In spite of this, they splendidly miscalculated the balance between aspirations and sophistication. Ew. Its mascot Kitsy was poorly designed and appeared like a cheap knockoff. This looks creepy. The park was stuffed to the brim with bread stands. Even if it's impossible to navigate, Mirror Maze seemed out of date from the start. There are no dreams to be had at Kitsy Land, only nightmares to attire. Numerous trade magazines lambasted Kitsy Land's shortcomings, and customer attendance declined. There was even an incident where a 6-year-old boy straight from his mother had an accident and nearly died. 1986, 5 years after the park opened, the situation had grown from bad to worse, and the park was hemorrhaging. On top of everything, Yurikiko, who had been everything of the success of the mascot, Kitsy retired and Kitsy Land's operations were officially in trouble. And thus, amidst the scorn of nearly all residents of the areas, ended Miyazaki City's one and only amusement park. What's more, perhaps best described as a footnote to the debacle and the self-proclaimed Parisian artist who designed the mascot, Toki Julik, was said to have snapped his brush in mourning over the closure of the park. Returning to the present, that's where they're meeting up, Kittyland. It was midnight and the Kittyland of today was a shadow of its former glory. He's holding the breadstick, right? Like a doll abandoned in the corner of a toy box, the lonely park was illuminated only by the light of the town that continued to live around it. So that's what happened. Sojiro closed the Yashigori guidebook that he had picked up on the way here. The story of its history was almost difficult to believe, but he supposed this was the people referred to as entropy. The park's front gate was unlocked. When he worked here the previous time, the iron fence was locked shut with a rusty chain, but the chain was nowhere to be seen and the gate velvet bar. Okay. Following the matte drawing and the letter, Sojiro quickly made his way inside. It sounded urgent, but to meet this late at night, what in the world could she want? Sojiro complained quite out of character for him. It was probably because in spite of his naivety, even he knew that something was amiss. Though the park was abandoned, this was still trespassing, unlawful entry, larceny, burglary. These were certainly not things or perhaps crimes that Sojiro was proud to do, but sorry, I can't pay you any money. In reality, sorry for coming in for free. I'm really sorry for coming in for free. Money apparently was why his conscience was gawning at him. That's creepy. He clapped his hands as an apology towards the statue of Kitty, on whose eyes the painting had begun to heavily dissolve. Ugh. Look, it's like it's melting. Sojiro passed the mascot bleeding red paint from its very eye sockets and began to walk the night park. The building's colors had faded. The collection of machines was rusted. The man-made residents no longer felt the passage of time. Even the ghosts themselves could not endure the disparity between this forsaken place and its previous grand stature. It was like a fossilized dream. There were the ruins of a paradise both created and abandoned by the man of reality. The economy had stabilized, and the standard of living was on the rise. Nobody was overly concerned with the future. These were the remains of the wild and exciting era. His breath turning white whispers before him, Sojiro continued through the abandoned amusement park. Though void of human presence, this was not nearly as frightening as the darkness deep in the mountains. City suburbs can take many different forms, but Kitsyland was unusual for an amusement park, and some extras had been built by adjacent to residential district. The park was surrounded by the forest, but even that ultimately was man-made. It was no different from the curtains on a classroom window. If he were to scale the iron fates in circling Kitsyland and break through the 20 yards of forest trees, he could make it back to the family townscape. Though the amusement park tended to arouse in dreams of the city folk, to Sojiro it was a little different than commonly downtown. Bum, 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 bum. It is such a good track. I guess that's it. The central plaza was as silent as the graves according to the map. The meeting spot was west of here. Waiting for Sojiro, his destination was a rugged imposing magnificent castle tower before the backdrop of the cloudy night sky. Even for an abandoned park, it was a remarkable structure. If the roller coasters and the Ferris wheels were loud and attention attraction, this was comparatively quiet and easygoing. It was one of Kittyland's three iconic structures and in a way the wicked forest that guided this paradise down to the path of closure. Generally speaking, amusement park mazes generally fall into one of two categories: labyrinths, which disorient visitors with their sheer size, and mirror houses, which distort visitors with optical illusions. Many of the labyrinth guests enjoy the brief sense of adventure that it afforded. Over the years, however, it will be uncertain by the ever-increasing throes of new attractions. Such was the way of all trends. The key are fads. The new must give its way to never. On the other hand, the House of Mirrors was a time-honored, beloved staple. Even within the confines of classroom dimensions, well-placed mirrors and well-directed light could both perplex and delight its visitors. And figuring the cost of maintenance as well-designed houses of mirrors could far outlive its labyrinth brethren. Even if both types faded into obscurity, they would remain a staple of what constituted an amusement park. However, that didn't mean that combining them would produce double the fun. Together, they transformed from entertainment into an uncanny realm from which those who dared to step in could never leave. In a similar sense, Kitsy's mystical tour castle was the park's very own otherworld. Indeed, 5% of visitors ended up requesting staff assistances to get out. Modeled after European castles, it was greater than a football field in length and intended further split into 3 floors. 2 floors above ground and one below, lined with mirrors from the top and bottom, equal parts of complex and vast. The maze demanded at least 30 minutes, even from veterans. One visit with all it took to be struck by catastrophe. I can't even read that word. I know what it says is claustrophobia. Be struck by oh no, it's not claustrophobia. Catophobia for hours. It was this labyrinth that now stood in Sojiro's ways. It looks like it's not entirely pitch black, but I guess somebody turned the lights on. It seemed that Sojiro, unaware of what House of Mirrors and was concerned himself only within his lighting. He checked the letter from Akko once more. The letter read, "I will be waiting for you in the first floor lobby of the House of the Mirrors." That meeting place was definitely in here. There was something to see by at least, as if he could just make out a light faintly throughout the open doors. Putting aside his suspicions, he headed towards the entrance. The sound of his steps against the brick-laid path echoed faintly. He was far from the hustle and bustle of the city. The park's closures no longer made tick-tock noise, and the winter's bites no longer blew up the night. From within the silence, the stillness that would cause an onlooker to hold their breath. Hello? Sojiro stopped abruptly at the entrance of this House of Mirrors. By the way, why are you over there, Ayozaki? He called out, turning back towards the plaza. A sound rang out as if someone had dove behind a garbage can and fallen to the ground in their haste. A short silence ensued. For a moment, the abandoned park returned to its previous hush. Resigned to have been exposed, the girl appeared from her hiding place. What is she wearing? Oh, that's a cool outfit. His voice died in his throat as if he took in the sight of the girl's familiar face in unfamiliar attire. This Akko with her long hair flowing in the breeze was different from the Akko that Sojiro knew. That's a cool outfit. The resilient sense and posture she took exuded his strength over her will. That's a screenshot. She stared directly at him with a sharp eyes, piercing gaze. Her eyes glowing with a dim phosphoric light enough to give Sojiro a pause that he might be hallucinating. An icy coldness in the girl's frame. Sojiro lacked a sense of danger, but the sense of imbalance caused even him to feel the malice in the air. It was as though Yuki Ono's spirit of folklore had climbed out from a ghostly star and appeared her in reality. Aozaki. Instinctively, Sojiro took a step back. Surprised, he was starting to feel concerned. An unpleasant pre-emotion rose to the surface, bringing with a sense of anxiety. In spite of this, he felt obliged to honor urban etiquette by seeing it if she was alright. Did something happen to you? From the looks of it, Without acknowledging him, Akko took a step forward. Her figure, this atmosphere, Sojiro found himself recalling a recent memory. His twisted knot of apprehension melted away and was replaced with a growing realization. The girl before him was very similar to someone he had seen before, the night in the park, though he had only seen her from behind. With increasing certainty causing him to swallow nervously, he noticed that they might as well have been identical. He asked me what I was doing. Well, that's exactly what it looks like. I was waiting for my prey to pass by. Once you went inside, I was going to follow and cut off your only route of escape. Ako said, perturbed by the swift change in plans. So I came to the right place. Sojiro was mightily relieved he had not gone to the wrong place. It was unclear whether he felt confident about dealing with what was to come, or if he had simply failed to grasp the hopelessness of the situation. Ako ignored his obtuse response and continued. You know, Shizuki. Just like anyone else, some people get on my nerves and some people I just really hate. But the funny thing is, my enemies are never people on my shit list. Cold emotions burned into her eyes. Her feet had already moved one step closer to Sojiro. Sojiro's sense of foreboding was growing strongly, wondering if what he sensed was bloodlust. He retreated another step, continuing until as they maintained a distance of just 15 feet. As far as I can recall, I've never thought of someone I didn't like as an enemy. As it happens, I've even had enemies that I liked. Okay, Google, lights on? Wow. And the reason is simple. Okay, Google, turn on purple light. She held her right arm out. The light about her was no illusion. One sec. Okay, Google, turn on brown light. That one's better. Uh-oh. It's simple, really. Anyone who throws me out of whack is my enemy. Her arm moved again. It was instantaneous. Something shot past Sojiro in the blink of an eye and missed him by just a foot to his feet. What? Before his eyes, a blue light, something akin to a fireball, had ignited from nothing. He finally understood what was happening. Oh, so she shot that from the light behind her. Wait a sec, I've seen one of those before. She ignored his dim-witted reaction. Damn it, I missed. Ako muttered to herself. The first since the hold of the blue light had made in the house of mirrors crackled and smoldered. A shot like... Oh my god, this is getting so good. A shot like that could easily cave in a human skull in addition to burning it to a crisp. I'd have to kill myself if Alice saw me miss at this range. Oh, I thought Ellie walked in. But you get it now, right? This is it for you. There won't be a second chance. Sojiro backed away swiftly. Things were beyond incomprehensible. He was so close to losing the ability to think at all. All he could make out was the figure of the dependable student council president, or at least what he thought was the president, and the memories of the park that night of 2 days ago. He had never experienced anything like this, though most people living in a civilized country would have never seen anything like this either. A lethal weapon that could kill, with nothing more than the pull of a finger, had a way of suspending the ability of its target to determine between not just good and evil, but dreams of reality, past and future. And the more peaceful someone's life had been, the stronger the impression was likely to be. All that we could think about was the fact that they were alive in the very moment. It was that he was an unwritten character of a blank piece of white paper. There was no before, there was no after, there was only what came next. This was a very common thought process for anyone staring down the barrel of a gun. Oh, don't bother begging, it's pointless. But feeling free to air your grievances is a killer's duty to listen to her victim's last words. By saying it was pointless, she made it sound more like she would not listen to what he had to say. However, Sojiro was in such a state of shock that it didn't even enter his mind to speak of. All he knew was reasons unknown that there was a girl in front of him and wanted him dead. You could have told me, Tobimaro. You said that no such thing exists. Well, how about now, idiot? There's a monster right in front of me. Sojiro felt that if he had said anything that aloud, the second blast would come even quicker than the last, so he kept it to himself. His mental exposure stirred his mind from paralysis to mere panic. This response came not from confidence, however. Somebody out of the blue, someone is going to kill me. Well, it may have seemed like a baseless belief to hold, but now that I think about it, murders happen all the time in cities. I should have remembered, if you break the rules, you get killed. I knew that already. To Sojiro, the situation seemed perfectly aligned with his inexperienced understanding that the city was a coldly pragmatic place. As far as he was concerned at this moment, being killed by a classmate was not something to be surprised by. In a society where murder was possible, he was able to accept this sort of situation as natural, or virtually no concern with a series of events that led to Akko's aggression towards him. The only thing that truly confused him was Aqua's blue fireball. Sojo swallowed with an emboldened gulp. To anyone who may have been watching, it was the response of a victim paralyzed by fear. That's right, so you do finally get it. I'm all out of words, so I think it's time you died. I could go on about how magecrafts have to stay hidden, but that doesn't really have anything to do with you. All you need to know is that you were in the wrong place at the wrong time, and that it was me who killed you. Wow. Done talking, Aqua once again lifted her right arm. There was a human-like machine. Blue light began to revolve around her arms beneath her sleeve. This was taking longer than last time, leading Sojo to believe that it was going to be much stronger than the attack that was still scorching the wall behind him. The realization caused him to panic to hide him. No, wait, it's not about me having to die, or the fact that the monster right before was like Shiozaki, or even whether she was part of the church. Has the church been a thing since this? Or even whether she's part of the church. It's not about any of that. His thoughts became jumbled. Is he part of the church, like in Fate? His heart pounded like a hammer. There was no time to be standing still. He was not sure if this girl in front of him was really human. And more importantly, even he could accept the events unfolding before him when all was said and done. Wait, it's wrong to kill people. Even if it was the fact of life in the city, Sojo was not about to lie down and die. Don't you think I know that? Hey, wait. Sojo's scream, still entirely oblivious, was just to invoke Aqua's full wrath. That's so cool. Aqua fired a barrage of magical blue bullets. In an instant, Sojo dashed into the shadows behind him and into the entrance of the House of Mirrors. What the heck was that? He darted feverishly down the hall. After a mere few feet, he was left completely out of breath. This was due to his shock at seeing yet another attack. Fiercer than the first he never seen in his life, and because he couldn't shake the thought that he had moved even a second later, he would be dead. He could not afford to stop. The sound of a merciless footsteps closed in behind him. I've brought myself some time. Maybe here I'll be able to figure out something. He threw everything into his legs and sprinted. A straight, narrow passage about 60 feet long connected entrances of the main body. At this rate, if he could just make it to the lobby, he was sure he would be able to find as many hiding spots as he needed. Holy shit. Thank God he arrived in a large open space. This was the first floor lobby. There were 3 passageways. One led to the basement floor, one connected to the first floor maze, the other was a set of stairs leading to the second floor. Sojo did not practically clear which one he chose, so trusting his intuition, he made a run for the first floor maze. When? Ouch. He smacked his head into the transparent wall. A mirror. That's right, it's annoying, but I guess this makes things fair. The chaser and the chased are on equal ground. A somewhat cheerful voice echoed in his direction. There was no need for Sojo to even turn around. In that very same mirror he had crashed into, he could see Aqua's crew slowly approaching. Oh yeah, I can see her. You should know I sealed off the first floor exit deeper inside, physically, not with a bounded field. Is calling it a seal going too far? Maybe plugged or buried works. Either way, if you get too close, you'll be swallowed by the cave, and I recommend keeping your distance if you don't want to be buried alive. Dude, my heart's beating. Panicked by the impending footsteps, Sojo were grouped by the wall. He could see the stairs up to the second floor. He did not understand what Aqua had meant earlier, but he at least knew the first floor was not going to save him. It would save me a lot of trouble if he just died that way though. The cleanup is much easier for accidental deaths. Behind him was a creature beyond words. As she continued her idle taunting, she lifted her right arm auspiciously. So cool. Even from above her clothes, one can see some kind of strange, incongruous pattern upon her body. It's her circuits, right? The veins beneath her skin. They made it seem as though something inhuman was circulating her body. Whether out of pity or repulsion, Sojo stood for just a moment. His pursuer evaded his gaze. You've noticed them. I normally hide it with ointment, but today is special. It's called a magical crest. It's proof that I'm a mage. Ultra magic crest. You see this light revolving around me, right? It's the beginning will form that snap, those bullets. I'm feeling pretty good today, and I've never felt more confident in how to use my magic energy efficiently. I think I'm good for another 30 bullets or
あと
so.
30回ぐらいかな。
Perhaps she was on an emotional high, for her voice had become friendly. The substance of her conversation could not have been any more unsettling, however.
そもそも
I don't
何
understand
を
they
言って
think
い
you're
るか
saying
よくわからない
Ayazaku.
んだけど、青崎。
わからない。
You don't? I'm telling you they
弾
have
数は
30
あと
more shots in
30
the tank.
発ってこと。そこまで逃げ
If
切れ
you
ばあ
can
なた
escape
の
before
勝
I
ち
use
よ。
them up, it's your win for today, that is.
今日はって。
For today, you may not have to do this tomorrow too? Sorjo knit his brows. Aku's expression increased into Scarlet's behavior. Although he was panicking, it seemed that deep down he still did not feel full weight of the crisis. She knew he still didn't get it.
宣言はしたわ。
I said my piece.
自由時間
Free
は
time
こ
is
れでお
over.
しまい。まだ罵り足りないだろうけど。
I may still have
そ
some
の他の
trash
時
talk
間は
left
キリ
in
がない
me,
しね。
but we'll
この
just
辺りで
never
諦め
enough
て。
time to get it all off my chest. Anyways, just give up already. It appeared Akko had prepared his tactical dialogue ahead of time, not to allow her opponent time for futile pleading, but to give time to curse her his color. Such frightness was her model operandi. With this victim, however, was not good as she had hoped.
とにかくそういうことだ。
Anyways, that's all I have to say.
じゃ、
Shall we begin the hunt? Her voice was void of emotion and her eyes ruthless as they bored into her prey. This time, Sojiro finally accepted that he was going to die. What's going on, dude? Silent as the dead, it stepped into the remains of the dread that he had long since seen no visitors. There was no wind this night, nor soul to be seen. Still, I heard the echoes from within, clasped the hands together and grinned. Its form, with hands clasped, presented a buddling tulip. The braying of this artificial flower reflected in the cloudy mirror of the ticket attendant's office next to the gate. Next to it stood a display board, cordoned by years upon years of rest. Number of visitors today, too. Number of today? The board had graffiti currently scrawled atop one of the words. It was replaced with deaths. The records boards had long ago fallen to disrepair. After taking a full 10 seconds to digest what it was looking at, it made its own revision. Is that somebody right there? Number of visitors today is 3. Number of deaths today 1? What the... After penning this number with an index finger, she smiled like a flower. Then she began to walk towards the source of the sound. Is it Alice? It's not Alice. It's the other person, right? The one that summoned the puppet? It had been 10 minutes that the restorer had begun to echo from the House of Mirrors. The amusement park's entrance returned as they were before soulless. What the fuck is going on? In the end, even if Sojiro had been the luckiest man alive, there was no way he should have been able to escape. The question, however, was how much of this was by design, and how much was sheer coincidence. Even Akko, who had made all the arrangements, had no answer. Indeed, there was only 3 things she could say. It was taking longer than expected, he was putting up more resistance than she had anticipated, and that choosing the House of Mirrors had been a mistake. She had already screwed the pooch on this one. The location itself was an excellent choice, and the House of Mirrors was perfect as a hunting ground, but seeing her own incompetence reflected in the mirrors was beginning to grate on her. Fuck, that hit him. The moment Akko's right arm began to glow, Sojiro made a beeline for the staircase in front of him. A striking series of blue flashes in the room behind him. The hunter calmly followed her prey, and the prey desperately ran for his life up the stairs. Look at that grin. Just what the doctor ordered. We can't very well let the best laid plans go to waste now, can we? In stark contrast to Sojiro's frenzied escape, Akko walked briskly up to the stairs. She elected not to run after her prey in order to maintain a set distance. As she lacked confidence in her accuracy, she would be most challenged if Sojiro Blue rushed her and went up down fighting. But at this distance of 30 or so feet, he posed no threat. By the time her prey drew near, she could fire 10 shots and hit with at least 4 of them. Their posturing just a moment ago hadn't been idle. At this distance, in the space of this open, there was a chance, however small, that it could turn into a fist fight if he flanked and charged her. Currently, Akko's best weapon was the bullets from her right arm. If she was going to capitalize on the advantage, it was in her best interest not to close the gap between them. If there was a good time to approach, it was only after the prey had become exhausted and had lost the will to continue. Would she pierce his leg, shoot him into the back, or perhaps would she just give up after losing himself in the labyrinth? The hunt would end when her target sustained some sort of injury and became unable to run. On Sojiro's end, he could barely bite back on screaming as he bolted through the maze. Even running in a straight line had become difficult, much less searching for an exit. Ow. The corridor stretched out far before him, and so the mirror's blocked path had made it seem. Panicked, he made a turn to the right. That hurt. Clutching his head in his right arm, Sojiro led with his left, groping through the air to see whether a wall was there or not. There. He dove down the hall to the left, narrowly dodging the bullet charging his right. Ha! Ha. Urged one sound of approaching the footsteps, he ran without thinking. That last one was close. A hair closer would have meant his life. He caught the odor of burnt hair from the back of his neck. He was very lucky, or perhaps very unlucky. If he were actually lucky, he would not have been in the situation in the first place. The second floor of the House of Mirrors was struck with a giant spiral. It wound less strength from the outside wall. Eventually, it would lead to a dead end. The more he tried to escape, the more cornered he would become, as though he were trapped in a twisted guillotine. Huff, huff. His stifled scream threatened to leak out his compliments. No matter what he did, he was going to be killed. All of his struggling merely served to prolong the inevitable. Yet he ran. No matter how many mirrored walls he remained himself in, he ran. Even after crushing so hard that he was foreshadowed of blood as he saw the stairs, he ran. Pain shot through him at every turn. The more frantically he ran, the more intensely he smashed into invisible walls. His body began to understand the rule and began him not to run anymore. Ha, ha. His breath was already ragging at the spring a couple hundred feet. No matter how he thought about it, this was not normal, this was too crazy, this was all just a bad joke. If he turned around now, she would apologize to him for taking it so far. His mind had gone blank and his body continued to slam into the mirrors again and again. His fleet slowly began to believe that perhaps it really was all a joke, but then he got hit. He felt a chill, a touch of death upon his neck. It would be no exaggeration to say that Sojiro knew this kind of terrible chill far too well. Ever since he had read in the city, he had come face to face with more than one or two near-death experiences. For someone who did not understand city life, his present feeling was not unlike when he experienced the traffic on the streets of the commuter rush of the station platform. He was far from an innocent babe, unable to comprehend life for fear. Rather, everything he had ever known became irrelevant when he flung into a completely different cultural sphere. Even society's promise of his safety, something unborn took for granted, or threats unknown. So he was used to this already. Though if he were to be honest, he was dissatisfied with something. Things superfluous to necessity. This world was overflowing with valuable things, and they were all dangerous in some way. Even the everyday necessities sold at the convenience store were, as far as he was concerned, amazing tools. Civilization had raised the standard of living so high that it had enabled humanity's sense of danger. The city's constant pursuit of wealth and convenience was a poison to the country boy like Sojiro. And he did not have the capacity to accept these conveniences. It would be possible for such convenience to easily and suddenly be misused and cause unintended accidents had always made him anxious. Why? He had to wonder why he was even here. Ooh. Fuck, is he bleeding? Yeah, he got hit. How ironic. It took the real threat of death to finally make him realize. Like a divine revelation what he failed to understand until now. He'd always had to expect the unexpected. Near-death experiences were more common than one might think. To begin with, safety was something that came to the price. Being alive meant that the officer was always lurking around the corner. It was just like a street light at night. When the sun rose, the illuminator would naturally disappear. Another barrage of same projectile whizzed mercilessly by him. He recalled in the back of his mind the charred remains of someone at the hands of the blue flame 2 nights prior. Somehow the situation reminded him of a horse being led by a dangling parrot. For now, he lifted his head and continued to run through the labyrinth. But for what purpose? Ha. Though he knew the pain in his chest was very real, he felt disconnected from it. The night sky visible through the skylight was a muddy undertow, no longer resembling the one he knew. And managed to calm himself. Sojiro began to laugh in despair as though something rather precious had been broken. Everything had become meaningless anyways. Even so, his legs somehow made their way forward, the sight of fear reflected in the mirror. Like a game of cat and mouse, Sojiro fled through the labyrinth of mirrors. Then, after 4 minutes, the strangely unreal tension ended. The ninth shot of blue light hit inches away from him. It exploded the monument impact, launching Sojiro into the opposite wall. Of all the fire he had taken thus far, this shot indecisively brought him to the closest to death. Grounding, he collapsed to the floor. His back was on fire with pain. He was not bleeding and was lucky he could still even scream. Yet his body refused to move. Physically and mentally, he still had something to spare. The pain was not so bad that he couldn't get back up. It was just there that the skylight above him and he could glimpse the dark of the night sky beyond. The feeling that overcame him was raw, selfish bout of grief, and it was just so cruel to have to stare at this remaining of whatever short life he had left. Sojiro Rad breath slowed. For all the intents and purposes, he had given up. He had given up feeling the prisoner of footsteps and perhaps even the roots of all his problems. Well, at least it was Ayazaki who got to kill me. No, don't give up like that, dude. Sojiro Suzaki felt things that in any other circumstance he would never feel. Incidentally, without exaggerating or embellishment, this was the only mistake he had ever made in his entire life. Staring vacantly into the night sky above, Sojiro listened to the footsteps drew near.
Give up?
You give up? It was the closest her voice has ever been to him. Perhaps feeling that he had really given up, she approached his collapsed form. In the dark mirror-lining corridor, he would not make out her expression. Without a word, Sojiro raised his eyes to meet his murderer. I suppose if you don't care, you don't have to ask. You really do throw me off. Most people would ask me why I'm going to kill them right before about now. Akka spoke within the shades. His eyes widened in bewilderment. Now that she had mentioned it, he realized that would have been the obvious question to ask. He had more or less picked up on the fact that he was being killed for learning some secret, but it was human nature to want to know more. That makes sense, now that you mention it. A simple affirmation. His face was a mixture of resignation and forlorn longing. He thought for a moment before. But you don't have to say anything. I don't want to hear it. He responded in a mature, subdued voice. His response was clear rather than blatantly so. I see. I'm still going to kill you. Aren't you scared of dying? Of course I'm scared. It'll probably hurt. His face turned wry as he objected, to which Akko frowned. As nonchalant as he could be, he was honest about his feelings. Of course that would be scary. I'd be scared too, you know. Sorry though, you'll just need to deal with it. It's okay if you call me a monster, that's exactly what I am right now. I guess in that way I'm just like you. I don't have what you would call normal morals. Helps when I need to murder someone. Sojiro's fingers switched in response to her indifferent tone, as if to say that despite having given up on just about everything, his body could not let loose to the world slide. Murder is wrong, you know. We went through this, I know that already. Akko raised her right hand. The light from the crest illuminated her face. It goes without saying that her expression was unchanged. She was not crying, nor was she smiling. She was a young woman who exists her feelings. Deal with it was another thing Sojiro could not let slide. Sojiro could read on Akko's face that she was not herself, she was in pain, and to a degree he had never seen it in her. Sorry, but I guess I do have something to say. What is it? But don't you think you contribute to letting you go by making me feel bad? He unconsciously smiled at Akko's ruthless counter and breathed a sigh of relief. He had misread what he saw in her face. This was the same Akko. Sojiro laughed out loud in genuine joy, a laugh that most other peoples would have taken as an insult. I'm starting to regret letting you say your piece. My puppy come early. Or should I take an attempt to make fun of me as just that? No, I'm not laughing at you. I was just wondering if the person over there was a friend of yours, Ayazaki. Out of nowhere, Sojiro pointed behind Akko. Get you your little toy. I dropped it. Somewhere here. I don't know where it's at. What? Akko thought that it must have been that old overused distraction technique. It had been a Japanese comedy. If this had been a Japanese comedy act, this would be part where she gave him a whack with a paper fan. But after giving a second thought, she realized Sojiro didn't have the capacity for understanding old or even new tricks.
あんた何言って。
Hey, you okay? I know. We're almost done. We're almost done with the chapter and then we'll go play. Perhaps his honest disposition had been to his benefit. Without thinking, Akko gave it to her curiosity and turned her gaze towards the direction in which her fingers were pointed. And there? Oh, it's a fucking puppet. Something that should not have been there in the maze, something with a creaking wooden smile. Do you want to go down? Okay, let's take you down. Here. It was the ominous, creepy, uncanny figure of a girl. Did we just finish the chapter? No. A puppet. An unusual figure with 2 arms and 2 legs sits silently in the darkness. If only for a moment it was a beauty which was apparent from afar, dulled the insanity of its current situation. Ooh. Extend. The utterly unknown threat made Akko freeze on the spot. Avoiding it didn't even occur to her. Humans possess intelligence and knowledge, but with the confidence of the unknown, they failed to process what to do. She got hit. A shriek escaping Aqua's mouth. The magical attack crossed the 30-foot gap in an instant. The arm of the girl who had appeared in the rear of the corridor was slender and quick. It extended to a near impossible length, striking Aqua from behind. Aqua crashed into the wall as she fought back an anguishing whimper. The attacker retracted her arm. Aozaki. Sojiro sprang to his feet. He darted to her side and used all his strength he could muster to get her to her feet. He could not believe how light she was. In Sojiro's mind, Akko was an extraordinary individual. He'd expected that if he were to ever touch her, it would be apparent she was far stronger than he. Hey, do you want your little toy? Go get it. But in reality, she felt about as heavy as she would be expected a 100-pound girl to feel. Ugh. Meanwhile, that thing continued to reel in its arm as if it were some sort of mechanism. Having extended more than 30 feet from the elbow joint, it clanked as it returned to its previous shape and size. Are you okay? She's clenching her arms the same way. Are you for real? How can you even look at me like that right now? Akko tore her hand away from Sojiro. Suddenly, she felt her knee buckle from under her, but Sojiro caught her before she could hit the ground and helped her to her feet. Don't push yourself too hard. So, do you know this thing? He looked back at the rear shadow 30 feet away as he finished retracting its arm. Yeah, I fought one of its friends a while back. Oh shit. Ellie, don't bite the cable. Akko grabbed her lower back as she answered. A searing pain shot through her. It's just a bruise, how can it hurt this much? It could have killed me catching me off guard like that, or maybe it can't kill from that distance. No, that can't be it. I must be missing something. Akko tried to steady her breathing as she assessed the damage onto her back. The pain was quick to fade and her breathing returned to normal. For the time being, her motor functions was no longer hindered, which meant the real damage was elsewhere. That's fucking creepy, dude. Ayozaki, you're? Oh, I know, just shut up already. She's out of bullets. Blue light glowed across the gloom. The magic energy generated by her breathing was accumulating in her right arm. Its magic energy was the fuel, the formula was the igniter. For Akko, this was little more than reenactment of 2 evenings ago. Next time the puppet extended his arm, Akko would fire a magical bullet as fast as she could. A battle takes approximately 30 feet. As long as Akko could secure a 2-second window, she could create a counterattack to end the duel. It made its move. With its head tilted down, there was no expression to be seen, and if in darkness it appeared, age was impossible to make out. To the two humans, the puppet was no dissimilar to a faceless ghost. Its left arm slowly came up to a grinning sore. Its movements were dull as if the joints were rusty. I don't know if that's a back shot or a front shot, but we'll take a screenshot. That right arm, which had been extended earlier, had it to the side. Though the puppet's mouth was hidden by its long locks, the sense was that it was smiling. It's changing it up. It's attacking from the left. Move it, Suzuki. Ooh. She threw herself into Sojo, extending her hand, its arm extended at that very moment. The timing was impeccable. In a single second, Aqua snapped bullet scorched the direct hit of the puppet's arm, throwing up a trajectory and sending its crushing into the puppet's body with a violent explosion. Or at least that is what would have happened had the magical formula been invoked. Huh? She barely avoided being struck once again. When her magecraft failed, her intuition took over and she just managed to get away. She got me, she knew what I was going to do. She clenched her teeth in frustration, her thoughts racing a mile a minute. Fight or flight. It had only one arm left, which could take time to retract. This was the best shot Aqua had at defeating it. If she could evade the right arm for just a fraction, she could get close enough too. You got Russians in this game? In slumber I live, in dirt I rot alone. Today is the day I died and was born. I come to you. A crackle echoed throughout the corridor. The poetic murmurs containing a magical energy from mage she perceived. The verse itself was Latin, but contained hints of the language of the curses Gander. Originally, they were words meant to curse a hated adversary, however. My life is immortal, though my future was destroyed. I am a ghost. The definition of life is eternal. I hate you, I love you. Let us meet in a dream. The puppet was directing the words at itself. Curse begets curses. The victim calls down a curse of assailing, creating a vicious cycle of negativity. The incitation was meant to do just that. However, this was ultimately a one puppet show, an unprecedented source of power akin to auto-intoxication. As unbelievable as it seemed, the cycle of curses had been turned into a perpetual motion device. You're going to be kidding me. Isn't this overkill? Aqua abandoned the idea of digging her heels in. It was time to flee with all due haste. What do you think you're doing? Come on. She grabbed Sojo's hand and ran as fast as she could, deeper into the realms of mirrors. The crackling voice continues murmuring behind them. My neighbors neglected me. Not an innocent among us. We're all sinners. We're all sinners. Welcome to my house. May we die a muddy death, from dust to dust. Gouge out my heart. It sounds so staticky, dude. That's fucking creepy. Death be upon you. What the fuck? Aqua fought against the pain in her back as she ran through the mirror. Oh, she's still hurt. She dragged Sojiro by the hand. Aozaki, are you okay? My spine is numb, but it could be worse. My internal organs seem fine, and I don't think I'm bleeding internally. She cursed inwardly at how much of a mess she felt, though. Unlike Sojiro, Aqua did not run into any transparent walls. Thanks to not the superior side, but rather progression, she'd hammered the layout of the building into her memory. You're really okay? How can you tell? Because it's my body. One of the first things in memory is how to keep track of your body. Aqua's matter-of-fact answer constrained with Sojiro's nervous questioning. The corridor grew shorter with each and every left turn. At first, they were able to advise in a straight line about 100 feet at a time. But by now, they were forced to turn a corridor every 50 feet or so. Is that one of them? The other night? Probably the same pattern at least. Whoever's behind him must be pretty wealthy to be throwing a valuable automaton around like it's a toy. Automaton. Sojiro furrowed his brows. He was grateful that she hadn't answering his questions, but baffled by the strange words she was using. Hold on, Izaki. We've been running around for a long time. We're a good quarter ahead, but we can't afford to rest a moment. His words suggested that he was concerned about his injuries. Oh, wrong button. Aqua shook his head in irritation. Not enough against something with that kind of range. We need to keep running until we're 2 or 3 turn clears at least. Sojiro nodded. With that matter settled, he asked, "Why didn't you leave me behind?" Who do you think so you couldn't get away, idiot? Answering cruelty, Akko glared at her naive prey. The two of them headed for the next corner. Their legs began to slowly as they rounded up one more. Akko rubbed her back as she tried to catch her breath. Though Akko had insisted that she was fine, it appeared to have been bravado. Even the usually clueless Sojiro felt the desperation they were in. He stood behind Akko with his arms folded. While they had a moment, he tried to make sense of everything. Well, lay down in your bed? She looks so sweet. Hold up, is this being caught up on the camera? Yeah, look. Come here. You know what? Yeah, look, you can see the bed if I do that. The two of them headed for the next corridor. Or the next corner. Their legs began to slow as they rounded up one more. Akko rubbed her back as she tried to catch her breath, though Akko had insisted that she was fine and it appeared to have been bravado. Even the unusually clueless Sojiro felt the desperation they were in. He stood behind Akko with his arms folded. While they had a moment, he tried to make sense of everything. First, Akko had nearly killed him. Though he had saved the last possible second, it was by the strange stretch the woman Akko had burned in ashes 2 nights. That's creepy, dude. He could barely make it out that night, but he considered it her because it looked female. The woman tagged wounded Akko back and forced her to flee. Akko had taken Sojiro with her, claiming that the reason she did was to prevent her prey from escaping. In other words, you haven't given up, have you, Aozaki? Of course not. Even if I had to face 2 of these things, I still have plenty left to care for the likes of you. Her tone was sharp, but even Sojiro could see that she was struggling to stay confident. Let's do this. The damage to her body was too much to afford her any optimism. Still, the flurry in her eyes refused to accept the circumstances. My magic circuits are shorting out like crazy, which means the right arm of hers must be jamming my spells. Though the proper response would have been for her to tremble in fear, she did nothing but shake her fists in anger. The disruption of formulas was only supposed to work on absolute beginners. If it had been her roommate, the arm would have been repelled the instant it hit her and the attacker's circuits would have burned out, rather than her own. Attempting to establish a link to magical circuits on another mage was like presenting your heart on a silver platter. It would be of no use in the battle against a superior mage. Let me read that again. Attempting to establish a link to the magical circuits of another mage was like presenting your heart on a silver platter. It would be of no use in battle against a superior mage. And yet her adversary had been designed to do just that. Coupled with the attacks on areas of Miyazaki under Akko's jurisdiction, these last few weeks it was a clear statement for an enemy who had revealed itself as a fellow mage 2 days ago. In other words, the puppet saw Akko as no threat at all. Played right into her hands, huh? While she was still angry, the whirlwind emotions within her started to fade. Her face was that of a hunted heart beyond her years. You seem to be more concerned about this than things you're about hunting me. Well, naturally, I was only playing with you earlier. Oh, shut up. Sojiro was not sure whether to be happy or sad about that. Look at her bite. This is also confusing that I don't even know where to start, but can I ask you just one question? Akko didn't respond. Her eyes were focused in the darkness before them. The silence was heavy and the darkness was like news closing in on them. But Sojiro continued in spite of her indifference. Are you going to kill her too, Aozaki? A stillness fell over them. It was as if the gloom was pulling them in. No response. Their breathing was that of only sound echoing in the dim corridor. There stood Sojiro, forcing her to confront her sins and the mage girl who continued to ignore him. They spent a few seconds seemingly frozen in time. Yes, that's a sticking point to you, isn't it? Akko whispered in a lifeless tone. Her side was tingling to both resignation and contempt. A sticky what?
独り言よ。
Nothing,
忘
forget
れ
it.
て。それと言っとくけど、
But just so
あ
you
い
know,
つ
the
は
things
人
that
間じゃ
following
ない。
us isn't
信
human.
じられないだろ
You
うけ
might
ど、
not believe it, but it's
自
a
分の
puppet
意
that
志で
can
動
move
く
on its
人形な
own,
の。
just like the one from the other night. Sojiro nodded as he proceeded the information. Not only did he not doubt her story, but he seemed to have accepted it at face value.
なんか落ち着いてるわ
You're
ね。あ
awfully
なた
calm.
まさか
No way, I have no idea what's
No,
going
何が
on,
何だ
so
か
I'm
わ
just
からな
trying
い
not
か
to
ら
think too hard about
ただ
it. The part
人
about
形
it
に
being a
関して
puppet
は
isn't
別
too
に
surprising
ど
to
う
me
と
though. What? Why?
もし
Are
かし
you
て
saying you've seen
他
one
でも自
before?
動人形を見たことあると。
No. What do you
都会
mean?
の人
Aren't
形
all
って
puppets in the city like
ああ
that?
いうものじゃないのか
She barely stopped herself from falling to her knees. Of course, how could she have forgotten? She was dealing with a bona fide natural-born moron. As a student who transferred from the isolation of the mountains like an endangered species, his other lack of common sense rendered anything miraculous and as mundane. If automobiles were moving hunks of metal, then moving puppets were nothing to write home about. Wait, that meant, to him, this incident from the other night had been extraordinary at all. He might have even assumed it was an everyday occurrence in the city.
参った。
I'd give
いっ
up.
ぺ
You
ん
know, I'd
頭の
really
中覗い
like
て
to
み
get
た
a
いっ
look
てい
inside
う
your head
か、
someday.
ほ
Honestly, I
ん
have
と
no idea
こ
how you
こ
made
ま
it
で
this
来ると
far.
感心するわ。調子が狂うのも当然だった。
No wonder you're such a weirdo.
普通
Normally
は
people
私に
wouldn't
襲わ
react
れ
the
た
way
時
you
点で
were when I
もっと
attacked you.
化け物とか
I could
お化
have
け
been
と
a
かさ。
monster or a ghost,
でもあなた
but
にと
for
って
you,
は
it was just
そ
another.
ういうこともあるで済まされてたわけなんだ。
Just going under the bed. But for you, it was just another new fact of life.
なんかバカみたいね。
I'm starting to feel like the real moron here. What are you doing, Ellie? I think she's trying to get the label. Yeah, yeah, he's trying to face return to more for a moment. That's funny. It hit her. There has been another way to handle this without anyone getting hurt, but the damage had already been done. There were no do-overs in life, nor should there be. Her own mistaken assumption has sent her situation spiraling out of control. But now the soldier was involved, she had to make sure that her secret was safe with him. Even if had been another better option, that ship had sailed. Human relationships were ultimately driven by mutual misunderstandings. Ellie, stop. Did I skip something? What did I skip? How much did I go
まさ
back?
かただ
How far back did I go back?
参った。いっぺん頭の中覗いてみたいっていうか、調子が狂うのも当然だった。化け物とか。
No wonder you're such a weirdo. Normally people wouldn't have reacted that way if you did when I attacked you. I could not have been a monster or ghost, but for you, it was just another new fact of life.
なんかバカみたいね。
I'm starting to feel like the real moron here. Her strained face returned to normal for a moment. It hit her. There had been another way to handle this without anyone getting hurt. But the damage had already been done. There were no do-overs in life, nor should there be. Her own mistaken assumption had sent the situation spiraling out of control. But now that soldier was involved, she had to make sure that her secret was safe with him. Even if there had been another way better option, the ship had sailed. Human relationships were only driven by mutual misunderstandings. They were like tapestries woven from mismatched intentions. Break time was over. There stood Ako Ayazaki and Sojiro Suzuki. Their first ever idle conversation had come to an end now that they had no choice in the matter. It was her jarring murmurings from around the corner that cut it short. Nobody remembers my Fumi, my morons had long since perished. We were born wrong, life is suffering. I skipped that part. The enemy was just around the corner, visible in mirrors parallel to it. We don't have time for this. We need to keep our Huh? Oh shit, it reflected off the mirror? In contrast to Oligo Elegant Blue, its lights were a malicious red. Gander shots? There was a momentary flash of light before she even extended her arm. But the instant she saw the enemy, her dormant feelings erupted once more. You're a real pain in the ass. Oh, she did a barrier? She channeled all her pent-up anger and shut into her right arm. The fog that filled the corridor was not magical weaving, but rather a barrier of raw energy. It was equivalent to setting ablaze 3 buckets of gasoline to create a wall of fire, in hopes it would stop an arrow of light. And the puppet had attacked it with its arm and would have pierced with such a wall easily, but because it had loose curse with no definite form, the wall of energy repelled the attack. While it was a huge waste of magical energy, it was the only means Aqua had to protect herself at that very moment. Unfortunately, its protection was a risk for Aqua alone. Oh, he still got hit. Sojiro held his hand for his mouth. While the curse had been weakened to the point where Aqua could no longer feel it, it had plenty of fish on Sojiro, who was not a mage. As if understood by this fact, the puppet turned his gaze from Aqua and unannounced vision human behind her. This has nothing to do with him. Where the fuck is Alice? Enraged, she swung her arm forward once again. That's the screenshot. The blue light formed a wall to block Gander for a few seconds. Ooh, I'm taking so many screenshots. It was enough in an open explosion just as Aqua was sprung in the wall. The puppet pointed his right arm at her face. This apparently does have something to do with me. Time to run. Before the rocket of death could be fired, Sojiro scooped her up in his arms. Huh? How he mustered the strength to do so was a mystery, but he turned his back on the puppet and took off running. He was a nimble sprinter resembling a deep lever across the obstacles. Sojiro rounded 2 more corridors. Ignoring whatever complaints, Aqua was mistaken and eventually stopped in the middle of the 2nd floor. He sat her down. Alright, I bought us enough time to rest a bit. Sojiro's shoulders heaved as he caught out his breath. As light as she was running while carrying as someone else would make anyone wield, she looked up at him in incomprehension. He had that much stamina all along, then why? It made no sense to her. If he had the stamina to pick her up and run, surely he could have stood and escaped when he had been... Oh, that time I had given up. His words were unfiltered as ever. Though right then, fighting for their lives, he lacked some of his unusual abstinence, but why? Who knows, I've forgotten already. Though he may have turned away because he regretted saying it out loud, his words spoke volumes. For some reason, it pained Aqua to see him like that. Also, Izaki, I'm suddenly feeling really ill. Was it that red light? Yes, a form of magecraft they called Gander shots. A curse that originated in Scandinavia. It has no effect on someone with magic circuits like myself, but you're defenseless against it. Then the arm is the only thing that poses a threat. Ago had no idea why he was relieved, but she gritted her teeth and fought down the urge to snap at him. There was no use in yelling at a time like this. Above all, she felt that it would have been pitting the extreme to voice her annoyance right now. You wanna go down? Let's take it down. You're right, the extending arm is the only thing I have to worry about, so it's not tough after all. This time it was not false bravado. Such an enemy would normally be a breeze for Aqua Izaki, but her shameful negligence had led to the disruption of magical circuits, making her even less formidable than her enemy. At this point, Aqua not way attacking. There was only option left for her was for her to wait to extend all her magical energy, but its perpetual curse mechanisms made that non-starter. This game of tag would not end until one of them was dead. She realized that she was in the same position she was cornering Sojiro in earlier. How the tables have turned. She glanced at her right arm. She could not imagine how she got in such a mess with her magical energy at more than half its capacity. This had been karma. Maybe this is good after all. She grumbled under her breath to shift her... Wait. How am I... She grumbled under her breath as she shifted her focus. She had the fuel for the fire, but not for the igniter. And that killing machine will chase her until the end of time if needed. What was she to do next was blindly clear. She had to get back to normal. Ayozaki? Sorry, I was thinking. Maybe that could be okay, Suzaki. I've got it. You sent that side passenger over there. Leave it open. It's cool. That way if she wants to go out. Yeah, it's alright. Okay, Suzaki, I've got it. You sent the side passenger over there, huh? Azaki pointed, but he could not see nothing but the walls of the corridor. For one thing, the floor had nothing but left turns and Aqua's were pointing to the right. At the center of the 2nd floor is a stairway down to the 1st floor, which I destroyed earlier so you couldn't use it. But there's another path that leads to the right. Like this place is taunting you by design. It's a secret shortcut that only the hardcore fans know about. If you search carefully, you can find a way to the stair down to the 1st floor. Now do as it's saying, go on without me. Aqua turned her back to Sojiro and started walking. And we're back. Aqua turned her back to Sojiro and started walking. walking into opposite direction of escape routes and down the long corridors towards the puppet in pursuit.
あいつは無差別
That
だ
thing
か
will kill anything it
ここで
sees, so I
壊
have
さ
to
ないとい
destroy
け
it
ない
here and now. It's okay for two
魔
mages
術
to
師は
fight each other,
魔術
but
師同士
dragging
で
normal
争う
people
のも
into
い
the
いんだけど
conflict is strictly
あ
forbidden.
いつの目的は
I'm the
私なわけだ
target,
し
so it's best outcome for everyone, don't you think? If Akko won, the puppet will be destroyed, and if Akko lost, the objective would be complete, and it was shut down. Either way, them going their separate ways would mean Sojo survived. This is what Akko meant. Though she explained as if the events were happening to two totally different people.
運が良ければ入り
If
口
you're
まで
lucky
たどり
enough,
着け
you'll
るわ
make it back to the gate in one
それ
piece.
じゃ
So see you
また明日
tomorrow
だ
then.
ね
Even Sojo could tell she was just trying to act tough, but she had already disappeared around the corner by the time... What? She's already gone? Are they gonna keep fighting?
さて
Well then. Mentally, Akko... I can't read that word. Bemoaned the disaster she was in. The quality of this puppet was on a completely different level compared to the one from the park today. Yeah, this one's so much fucking stronger. An auto-incanting perpetual motion machine was a rarity in and of itself, but this puppet was also equipped with battle with its extending arms and grander projectile crystalline eyes. It was a first-class product that if put on the market would sell for hundreds of millions at the end. Oof. Although that was the only when factoring its values as an antique for the purpose of combat, it would have made more sense to mobilize a significantly less expensive familiar. To use such a precious commodity as a tool for murder marked this puppet's master as a completely different breed of crazy from enemies that it faced up until right now. That's creepy. I can't read that.
来たわね
Here it comes. A sound of a crackling music box filled the air. The automaton animated by its own cursors approached. The corridor measured approximately 30 feet in length, Akko laying wait around the corner further down the hall anticipating the puppet's appearance. This was not to buy Sojo time to escape, far from it. Akko had concluded that she could make a break for it under the current circumstances, even if she did try to escape and by some miracle made it out of the House of Mirrors. This was as far as she would go. Outside, with no cover, Akko quickly will be overtaking his scooter from behind. As long as her main trap was disabled, escape was impossible. Instead, she chose to force the enemies back. His situation was not the most favorable, but neither was the puppet's. Though this narrow hall gave Akko no place to run, in turn it prevented the puppet from reaching full speed. That was the weak point of this machine. Automata of this era had tenacity to struggle with minute changes in speed.
セット
So it's slow when it responds. Connecting. Sucked. Nice. She flowed the energy into her short circuits. Her blood flow and magical energy supply was unstable. It would be difficult to construct a formidable in this state. All she could do was harden her right arm by imbuing it with as much energy as she could. Doing so turned her arm into an equivalent weapon like a hammer or bat. Assuming she could manage to get into close combat range, this was the best she could do. All she needed now was a plan of attack. The question wasn't what weapon to use, but how she could use the weapon so hard. The simplest way she could use the mirror's reflection to hide and then rest puppets of his one blind spot, except for one major problem. It did not have a sense of sight in the first place. The puppet's view of the world around did not stem from visual feedback, but from mapping on the topography of its surroundings. In theory, it was the same as the bat's echolocation. The environment could not measure the baseless of the emissions and return of the high-frequency sound waves. This chance served as a censor post as far as the puppets was concerned. The mirrors were no better than transparent panes, making even more thought of ambush laughable.
近づけば近づくほど
The closer it gets, the more able it is to sense me. It'd really rather fight at a distance, but its shooting gander has probably got at least a fin shot up its sleeve too. Gander was Scandinavian in origin, and considering its simplicity, high and versatile, it was the most efficient in parrying target's health by pointing at a finger. As a single-action maincraft, it was limited to only causing illnesses, but there was a secret technique said to be the greatest mastery of the grand shot. The fin shot. It could do more than cause simple illnesses. It was deadly curse that could stop the heart. Ooh, that does not sound good. Is that what they're trying to hit her with? That wound on her back sent her nerves on fire, an unarmed girl and a deadly automaton. It was clear that she was the one destined for death. She considered her slim chances of survival when... That's the person. A vision sent chills down her spine. Quality, using everything she could to clamp down on the feeling, Akko faced her all too familiar illusion. She clenched her teeth to keep them from making a defending clatter. But there, the sensation of fingers crawling up the back of her neck. Behind her, the specter started and laughed. This alone made Akko want to bolt. On top of it all, when Akko tried to mentally simulate the coming of the fight, she esteemed a 2 in 10 chance of dying in the first 5 seconds. Ooh, that's not good. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, there's 10 of them right there. If Akko fought the puppet 10 times, she would die twice. She could not stop herself from visualizing her own corpse. She had imagined herself collapsing, crumbling under the puppet's curse. Her eyeballs swollen like a bullfish, blood from other fluids oozing from her everyday bodily orifice. 1 in 5, 1 in 5, 1 in 5. A 1 in 10 chance of death was bad enough, but 1 in 5, it drove her crazy. But Akko forced down her heart as it tried to escape from her mouth. Taking in deep breaths, she peered at her own reflection. She thought back to the white night half a year ago. This, she decided, was nothing compared to that. 6 months ago at the Kunji estate, the hound of the white roses that wandered and appeared from within the thick fog had killed Akko 100 times out of 10. That's fucking creepy. A dark curse shattered Akko's daydream. It was only 30 feet away. The puppet rounded the corridor. Other sides stood in shadows that formed in the street. The puppet gave no warning. Without premeditable, it swiftly fired and gunned a barrage. Holy shit, just as Akko planned, the curses fizzled out as if it hit her mist-like barrier of magical energy. The protection would only last a few seconds, giving her just enough time to... Oh shit! Come on. Its stretching spear sprang towards Akko's face. Bingo! Fuck, that's so close. The lethal weapon grazed her cheek. All her experience analyzing puppet attacks patterns gave her the wherewithal to evade the attack by a hair's breadth. She got her? It was one thing if a puppeteer were pulling the strings, but automatons dolls had their limitations. Akko had bet everything on this killing machine following a predefined template. The puppet would use a given attack for a given range, and she could adjust her tactics to that. Ugh, what happened? Now's my chance. Before its arm had a chance to fully retract, she charged for the puppet. It was a risky gamble, but her overall chances were slim to begin with. The scales tipped in her favor. If her predictions were correct, there were 2 ways she would die. One was for a Mifin shot fired at this range. Ooh. And what's the second one? And the other? The other was if the puppet's attack patterns were beyond her ability to foresee. Instantaneous mass transfer, otherwise known as mass displacement. Immediately after Akko dodged the puppet's arms, something smashed into her abdomen. Oh. The head-on collision was from the shoulder, felt like a rocket. But where had the ability to propel itself come from? Puppets like this were not built to have the ability to jet around just like that. Huh. Doing everything in her power to stay conscious in spite of the plane, Akko could just make out what had happened. It wasn't propelled, it was pulled. Yep, the puppet's arm had no return to its body. It was lodged into the wall and reeled itself from the other direction. It can do that? Swallowing her surprise, she hastily pulled herself back up. Her abdomen, specifically her diaphragm, had been dealt a significant blow. The attack left her disoriented. Thankfully, the puppet was surprisingly lightweight. Her bones and organs were intact, and she had sustained no life-threatening damage. She was having a hard time breathing, however. She was shaken, but she managed to keep her calm in another 2 seconds. She'd be back on her feet. No, she was 2 seconds too long. She had told herself to calm down, that she was already calm. She'd only briefly lost her breathing. She was fine. She could recover her breath of her vision later if only her body would move. Above her, Akko could hear the rapid noise of her powerful force. Come on, legs, move. We got to... Where? She could once more feel the touch of death. The puppet was so close so Akko could reach out and touch it. That also meant that it could reach out and kill Akko. I need to get in my right arm I need to get my right arm into its blind spot. By intuition alone, Akko rolled over to the puppet's right flank. Its arm was still embedding within the wall. From here, it could not attack. She had made the right decision, and her dizziness faded. Cast off righteousness, lay pity to rest. Who beasts are meant to consume each other, life with dedication. Throw away your intellect, pain, powers, and mind. Akko pulled herself back up. It was her turn. What? Oh, that's fucking creepy. Ugh! It was only an instant. With this labyrinth of mirrors, she saw the image of herself. We die. Soldier, where you at, bro? A blinding, brilliant light flash. Lacerations appeared across the walls. At the last moment, Akko... Oh my god, I rewinded it. Hey, don't bite that. Don't bite my cables. Don't bite my cables. That's dangerous. No. Stop. Can you? Okay. A blinding brilliant light flashed, lacerations appeared across the walls. At the last moment, Akko managed to thicken the magical energy running through her veins in her primitive form of magecraft resistance. It just barely saved her life from what must have been the puppet's ace in the hole. Why you? The puppet bore a striking resemblance to Akko. This powerful curse was not satisfied with stopping Akko's heart, but destroying her entire being. Akko did not even have the time to be shocked. This was her chance for a counterattack. The puppet's balance was unsteady and his right arm still embedded into the wall. Akko prepared to give his defense body a strong kick, but her knees buckled as she collapsed into a heap on the floor. In slumber I live, endured I rot alone. Today is the day I died and was born. I come to you. What is happening, dude? A sudden nausea, lightheadedness overcame Akko. Her body temperature began to rapidly lower. This whole time, it was spreading its curses the whole time. She noticed too late. The puppet's curses circulated the hall. The curses chanted as the puppets used as a source of... Oh, so every time she's been talking, she's been chanting a curse? The curse chant that the puppet used as a source of power doubled as a defense mechanism, crippling those who drew near the illness. She bore the full brunt of the entire time she was in close proximity to it. Although Akko had magic circuits, she was succumbing to Sojiro's hand. Languidly, she forced her deteriorating body to jump back. I'm not done yet. With all that energy she could muster, she forced her way past the exhaustion caused by the curse. However, Akko's blood pressure took a steep nosedive, not from the curse-inducing anemia, but from what appeared in front of her. They stood in perfect harmony. In front of Akko was the automaton that shared her face, its left arm held out like an arrow. The deadly weapon shot forward as it honed in on her heart. Then, a moment before they made contact... Watch out! The moment she heard the fearless voice completely out of place in the storm of violence, Akko's body was pulled forcefully to one side. Once again, the extending arm cut through empty air. While the puppet quickly retracted its left arm, Sojiro took that brief opportunity to take Akko by the hand and flee at full speed. Holy shit, he saved her. Sojiro ran through the corridor as fast as he could, only stopping when he had put enough distance between them and the puppet. I was thinking, and? Though he had saved her, she looked angry rather than grateful. This did not keep Sojiro from saying his piece. Tomorrow is going to be a really busy day for me. So, in other words, let's finish this today. A rather awkward proposal. Akko remained silent. She was also rather angry. Not that she could not figure out what he made by his tick, nor because he returned after escaping, not even because he was spouting his typically airheaded lines. It was, she supposed, that instant, the fact that when he grabbed her hand, her mind had gone completely blank. Akko found it unforgivable. Which beckoned the response. Are you
正気
insane? In that heat of the moment, she blurted it before she could stop herself.
それとも自
Or
殺願
maybe
望
you
で
got a
もあったわ
diffush.
け
Do you realize that either of us could
私
kill
もあ
you
いつ
with
も
the snap of a
あ
finger?
んたなんか殺す対象に過ぎないのよ少なくとも
At the very least,
恩
I
を
don't
売
know
る
you a
相
damn
手じゃな
thing.
い言っとくけど
Saving my life
私
doesn't change a thing between
助
us. Sojiro nodded clearly, uninterruptedly.
青崎が
Uninterrupted.
そんな可
Don't
愛
worry,
らしい
Ozaki.
もん
If
じゃない
tonight
の
taught me anything, it's
こ
that
の
you're
夜
more
だけで
ruthless
骨
than
身に
that.
し
Oh, that's sweet. She found herself slightly offended.
けど君は勘違い
But I
をして
think
る
you
か
need
ら
to get one thing
あい
straight.
つの狙いは
That
青
thing
崎だ
isn't
けじ
just
ゃな
trying to
い
kill you. I think it's
君
trying
だけ
to
じゃ
kill
な
me
く
as well. She was having none of it. Her eyes shot daggers his way.
話は最後まで
And
聞
before
く
you chew me out, you need to know something.
どうして
Do you
かっていう
remember the
と
first floor entrance at
一
the
階
end
の
of the long corridor?
なんでかあそこ
Well,
から
it's
先に
blocked.
進め
I
ないん
tried
だ
my best to find a way out,
逃
but
げた
no
くても
luck.
逃げ
There
出
was
せな
no
くて
choice but to turn right back. Ako's eyes widened as she slightly in amazement. She felt admiration rather than shock that her enemy would go to such lengths.
それに
And
さっ
besides,
き
it
の
was
で
hostile
完
to
全
me
に敵
earlier.
扱いさ
I
れた
could tell by how it was glaring at me.
いや
Well, it
一
happened
瞬
so
で読ん
fast
で
I
見えな
didn't
かった
really
け
get a
ど
good look at it,
生き
but
た
it was
心地
really
しなかった
unsettling.
な
You should be careful. That thing
青
sure
崎
has
も
a
気をつけ
terrifying
た方
face.
がいい
It has her face.
それはご親
Gee,
切にどう
thanks.
も
You bet. I mean,
な
I
んで
can't
これは
pretend
もう
like
他
this
人
isn't
事じゃない
happening
ん
to me.
だ青崎と人形
Whichever of you wins, I'm
結論とし
dead
て
man either way, right?
そうね
I can't
そ
argue
こま
with
でやっ
that.
てる
It
な
is
ら
willing to go as far
目
as to
撃者は
sense
消
out
す
the
でしょう
entrance
ね
and it'd probably kill off
私み
any
たい
witness as well. At least that's what I do.
だろ
Right? And I
でも
don't want to be the
俺
one.
はあいつには殺され
Right?
た
And
く
I
ない
don't want her to be the one who kills me. Right? And I don't want her to be the one who kills me. Wait, what? His words were decisive. As Aqua looked up at him, she could swear he was trying to encourage her. It was then that she realized. Sojo was looking even worse than before.
ちょっと待って
Hey, are you okay?
大丈夫なのあなた
もう
Well, I'm better
醤油を一升
than
瓶
if
飲むよ
I
りは
dunk an
マシで
entire
はない
bottle
か
of
と
soy sauce. He tried to make light of the situation, but his forehead was clearly drenched in sweat.
そうか
Right? It's because he was close to the
さっき
puppet
人形に近づいた
just
から
now. How could he possibly be able to withstand a curse that made even Aqua nauseous? She bit her lip, annoyed at herself for not noticing this earlier. Sojo was such an airhead that she hadn't even paused to consider his plight.
下で隠れていよう
Why
とか
didn't you
思わな
consider
かった
trying to
の
hide down in the basement?
その方がど
That
う考
would
え
have
て
been the
も安
safest
全で
bet,
しょ
wouldn't it? She really could not understand him at all.
それは青崎が言
You
う
should
セリ
really
フじゃない
take
な
your own advice sometimes, Ayozaki.
でもまあ
But hey, this is no time to be chatting. She could catch us any moment. He turned to look down the corridor. The crackling sounds of music box that could be heard creeping forth, coming from the darkness.
さっき1階にて考
I
え
was
たん
thinking
だ
about this while I was on the first floor earlier. If it kills you, I'm next. That's why
なら
we should deal with it
まず
first.
奴をどうにかするべきだ
あなた
What are you getting at?
何が言いたい
She asked a question to which she already knew the answer. She did it to put him to the test. If he wavered even a little, she would have killed him where he stood.
提案
My proposal agreed to help you kill the thing. Will you let me go?
俺のことを見逃してくれる
You look so sincere.
助けられたぐら
I
いじゃ
thought I'd
信
make
念
it
は
clear
な
that
れないっ
helping
て
me
言った
wasn't
で
going
し
to
ょ
change my mind.
それに
And besides, what do you think you're going to do with it anyway?
それは青崎が
Oh,
考え
that's
て
your
く
end
れ
of the bargain, Azaki.
Don't
This
worry,
is your
no.
area of
So you know.
expertise, right? The commander who had the overall picture was responsible for the enlightening roles to their teammates. It was futile to depend on someone who was unable to grasp the situation or evaluate the enemy's strength. Sojiro was proud to share that he knew this. He spoke the truth. Akko was the only one who knew both Sojiro and the automata. That was why he pointed out that following her orders to the best of his ability was the only thing he could do. It may have seemed as though Sojiro had surrendered his capacity for self-thought, but in accepting that he was helpless, he was in fact giving Akko his complete trust. Fine, then so you'll do exactly what I told you to do?
あ
I will, and just so you know, I'm not doing this out of
これは
sense of
恩とか義理の話じゃ
obligation
な
or
い
anything.
一人だと分が
It's
悪い
just
から
obvious that
二人
neither
で
of us
かか
had a
るだけだ
chance on our own. This isn't
善
goodwill,
意でも
kindness.
行為でもない
It's a transaction.
取引っ
Damn.
て言わないかこい
His eyes sparkled as if it was bartering in its truest form. Damn.
まったく
Oh my god. This child must have learned that from Tobimaro, Akko thought. Though she refused to let him see it, she smiled inwardly. Surely he had gotten the best of her just now. But there were times when defeat was not the worst outcome in the world.
労働と報酬ってわけね
Honest pay for honest work makes sense. And I hate to admit it, but... She relaxed her shoulders and sighed. Her face cracked in a wicked grin as her fear suddenly washed away.
それ
Your
結構
plan is
私
just
の
my
好みよ
style. Aqua replaced Soldier to trust in equal measure. Just so you know, this is going to be pretty tough for you. Aqua warned Soldier, moving as fast as she could without footfalls causing a din of noise. Soldier will remain her near the center of the spiral maze on the second floor. I'll let you in on one secret. I have another trap up my sleeve. I think I might have gone overboard with that one, but when you didn't show up on time, I just couldn't help myself. A trap for me?
仕掛けって
Sojo tilted his head like a squirrel as Aqua freely discussed the finance up her sleeve. Entrance, corridor, foyer, second floor, first floor, and basement. I engraved an ignition formula into the support pillars in the basement. If I ignite the center pillar, it will start a chain reaction and will ignite the rest. I made it before the thing started jamming me, so infused it with a bit of magical energy, it'll go boom. Sojo was a little unsettled by how unclear that last bit was.
青崎
Ozzy, could you clarify? I want to know how much you were going to blow me up. Please
ど
be
こまで
honest.
爆破する気だったのかあと
Also, didn't I make a mistake agreeing to team up with you?
早
Don't be silly. It was just an insurance policy, yeah. I just thought that if I lost sight of you at any point, I could blow up the whole building and you with it. That's funny. It was her policy to be thrown to a fault. After all, she laughed and embarrassed herself as
いく
saying
ら
it
なん
out
でも
loud.
徹底
Don't
しす
you
ぎて
think
る
that's overkill? Faced with Aqua's cruelty, Sojiro forgot about the situation in hand and protected from the bottom of his heart. Stop complaining, at least now we have a way to fight back. She shot back. Aqua dashed down the corridor, mumbling things that probably would have seen Sojiro packed in her head. The strategy was simple. Aqua would use the escape route to the right and avoid the puppet while making her way down to the basement. Upon reaching the central pillar, she would infuse the formula she had prepared with magical energy and escape. Once ignited, it would take a bit of a minute for the chain reaction to spread throughout the whole house of mirrors and another minute for the building to collapse. She would be cutting it a little close, but because she had committed to the maze memory, she was sure she could make it out in time. Aqua assumed that the chain reaction caused by the pillar would clear the barrier that the puppet had placed at the entrance. And even if it was strong enough to withstand the blast, it would not be able to stay standing once the foundations buckled. Soldier's escape was assured as long as the formula in the basement was activated. Next came the most important part. The automata was at a disadvantage in an obstacle-laden house of mirrors and was unable to move at full speed. If it was near the center of the second floor when the building collapsed, it would be caught up and crushed by bit. So the problem was keeping the puppet on the second floor until Aqua could make its own to the basement. I'm counting you, Suzuki. I just need you to keep it occupied for 3 minutes. Ideally, he would be able to keep busy until she could activate the formula. If that failed to work, he lured him down to the first floor would be next to the best thing. She understood perfectly well the danger she was putting Sojiro in, but his lucky sticker running speed was nothing to scoff at. As long as all it has to do is run, then maybe, just maybe, he can actually pull this off. Aqua made her way through the hidden passage of the maze, her hopes pinned on Sojiro. Meanwhile, while out of earshot, Sojiro was readying himself for another desperate chase. He calmed his beating heart using a method of his own making. What mattered most was that he remained calm. The plan was simple enough, and Aqua orders were sufficient and easy to understand. Keep a distance around 30 feet and weave around the corridors as slowly as you can 3 or 4 times. Count the mirrors as you move to locate the hidden passages. From here, there are on the 6th, 3rd, 7th, and 2nd mirror counterclockwise. Use those and she should be relatively safe. I already forgot that. It was essentially a looping marathon. As long as Sojiro kept just enough distance from the puppet's extended arms to allow her to track him, she could continue to chase him indefinitely. Simple though the task was, Sojiro was putting his life on the line as bait. And then there was the final order to run as fast as he could to the exit when the building began to sway.
結構じゃなくて
This is more than just a little
かなり
tough. Fuck, that's creepy. He nervously stuck his head out from around the corner. He could hear the sound of the music box from the other side of the corridor. First he had to make eye contact with it, then head through the shortcut and right and begin their wait game of tag. Oh, fuck, it's creepy. He spotted it and embraced himself. Closer, closer. Fearing that her arm could fly at him at any moment, he went over Aqua's instructions in his head.
あれ
Wait. However, he could not quite remember which Pain led to the first hidden passage. The third, the sixth, the ninth. No. He was sure that was mistaken. He was confident he had memorized moments ago, but his nerves had gotten the best of him and his head was now spinning. Then, Sojo realized that the sound of his pursuer was beginning to grow distant, and at an incredible speed. Ugh, what the fuck? It has multiple arms? What's it doing now? The unusual silhouette of the puppets astonished him. Before it had taken the form of a beautiful girl, but now it made a bizarre transformation and returned to the first floor to pursue her primary target. Oh, this isn't the plan. Sojo was no longer sure what to do. Before he'd even had time to mourn his failure, the puppet had vanished out of sight. I hope so, let me go. Or so he had said. Now all he could do was not follow through. So what am I supposed to do now? Alone, he tilted his head in frustration. He spoke in the darkness as if Aqua would be there to answer him. That's pretty funny. Let me do this. We're good. Meanwhile, downstairs, as soon as she arrived on the first floor, Aqua understood what transpired above her. She did not even have to strain her ears to hear the puppet. Even during its height, this attraction had never made sounds like this one she heard coming towards her now. It was a sound of despair, as if a horde of monsters, hedgehogs, were scarping their way past the mirrors in direction. That did 3 minutes, he couldn't even last 10 seconds. Rather than buying her time, Sujiro had instead stolen hers. He had one job to run away, that was all. She cursed him under her breath. Multiple footsteps, so it switched from bipedal to multi-leg form. The echoes made it sound like dozens of feet were approaching. Aku's mind conjured an image of a giant six-legged spider tearing its way down the corridor. Ooh. It was little wonder that it was so much faster than before. Its perception of its surroundings was particularly used in the dark. Compared to the sight-dependent humans, the automaton was far better equipped to navigate its way through the labyrinth of mirrors. If it could not keep pace earlier than it had been because of the bipedal mode, made it less maneuverable. Now that its ability provided multiple legs gave it speed that far exceeded that of any human. Okay. What now? What now? Her thoughts spun out as she tried to come up with plan B. All she knew was for sure that she would shoot the pivotal moment. If she continued standing slow, she had seconds left at most. Even in her current state, she knew she could easily neutralize the bounding field blocking the entrance without the casting spell. All she had to do was feed a little of her own energy into it. Aku could sprint with all her might for a little more than 3 minutes. The puppet had far more stamina than she did. She could only come out with 3 options. The first was to escape through the exit in front of her. The second was to hide somewhere on a more complicated first floor. And the third was to run into the basement and be stuck like a rat in a trap. Well, that's obvious enough. She made her decision with zero hesitation, moving her stiff legs again with determined strength. The oncoming storm was almost upon her. Her resolve firm stood and ran, descending into the darkness. She in the basement? Is it sunrise? No matter what, a finale should be glorious. This would be the Mirror Castle's final scene. 2 humans and a puppet. A young sorceress ran towards the subterranean heart of the castle, while an autonomous antique chased its prey into the depths of the demonic dungeon. Oh, she's blowing it up right now. A minute later, a faint blue charge would ripple throughout the castle. This was the main pillar in the deepest depths of the basement. Though not critical of the castle structure, and the pillar was a visible symbol of it, the girl concentrated her magical energy into a fist and thrust it into the pillar. This was the blow that would bring down the castle. She imagined the destruction as she threw the punch, and then the signal blossomed to reality seconds later. It was a simple ignition magecraft meant to release the condensed magical energy engraved into the 4 pillars at the corners of the structure. Using her electricity to switch men virtually instantaneously activation. He's like, fucking run! Get out of here! It happened swiftly and elegantly. A hammer of destruction descended upon the castle of dreams that had simply risen and faded for 2 years. It was almost a joyous sound, and so the lifeless and abandoned castle of mirrors set the stage for a final and most spectacular performance. Aqua's magic energy became electrical charge that activated the Magecraft formula engraved into the pillar. The change direction will lead to the castle's destruction.
ご苦労様
You served your purpose, but it must have been rough. Looks like you're gonna collapse anytime now. The plaza in the center of the basement. Aqua tried to steady her breathing while rotating her magical crest at full speed. She wrapped her arms in blue light, fully aware that she could no longer activate another formula. Oh shit, she's out of spells. Ew, that's fucking creepy, dude. Her labor breathing refused to settle. She stood at the center of the basement. Without being spotted even once, she had managed to make it all the way down to the center pillar. It was a 100-meter dash and the 13-second slot, undoubtedly a new personal best. She spurred on her weakened heart, knowing full well the fate would await her.
入れば追ってくる
It can't be helped but follow me, and once down here, there'll be no escape.
当然よね
I should have expected that. It was too much to expect that I could keep up the chase forever. Hindsight was 20/20. The castle was only a minute away from collapsing completely. If they stayed here, they would both be crushed by the rubble. The puppet certainly did not care. With no life of its own, its sole concentration on the elimination of its talker, Aqua Ayazaki. Indeed. The anime had been willing to die from the start. She resented her own lack of resolve. It wasn't like her to tuck tail and run away from the opponent during fear death. In slumber I live, and there I rot. Today is the day I died and was born. Now I come to you. It's always been on the suicide mission, huh? It doesn't have enough juice to power the 6-letter form from the fin shots. The curses aren't recharging it fast enough. Such a perpetual motion device was only as good as the ability to regulate its energy consumption. Using so many functions on once meant it was burning to fuel quickly and losing the ability to process the curses that powered it. It was up all the functions that had been given to achieve its aim. This was the pride of a tool. If such things could have ego, those endowed with sentimental could never hope to understand. A beast born to do nothing but run, burn any human with faceless resolve. It's a waste when you think about it. I thought my sister was the only one capable of something this reckless, but I guess I was wrong. She thinks it's her sister doing this, but Aqua did not intend a sacrifice play here. She respected her history now, and she was done regretting her choices. There was no time to waste. This is it. This ends now. Aqua had every intention of paying it back double for what it had done to him. Holy shit. The energy Aqua had accumulated exploded out of her righteous legs. She aimed for a single thing and hit it on attack. The energy responded with elemental curses and reached for her heart like a set of talons. Humming with power, it meant to render Aqua's heart and burn itself onto the process. Hope. As soon as she saw it, Aqua kicked on the floor as hard as she could. Her long hair swirled through the air as she flipped aside. This latter move almost sent her tumbling to the ground, but quick swing of her allowed her to regain her balance. A shot grazed her arm, the curses scorching her left shoulder. She did not flinch. Aqua knew she could hold on as long as she continued to avoid a direct fin shot. Snap. Off balance and in pain, and took her half a second to recover. The moment she raised her head, she deflected the attack with a fistful of... I read too quick. Here it goes. If the puppet had a will of its own, its eyes would have popped right out of its socket. It would have been floored, shocked at a strong will that allowed this girl to perform a series of moves like this. Crack. Oh my god. Aqua's response was instantaneous. While her power was not sufficient to completely redirect her arm's trajectory, it was free enough to deflect its harmlessly past her hair. It was all a mistake. I should have never been born. Atone for me, atone for me, and atone for me. What the fuck? The chant became a curse to rob of Aqua of her vitality. Did it still have something left in the tank, or was it actually indigenous? Whatever the reason, Aqua was easily able to resist his weakened defensive maneuver. Oh shit, she got it. Glider. And her right leg pulsing with magic energy shot up into the puppet's chest from below. Oh shit, she got it. It was much lighter than Aqua anticipated, or rather she felt little resistance. An automaton weight was determined by its internals, the size of its power source. Ironically, it was the superiority of its music box engine that would prove to be its downfall. Welcome to my grave. A stuttering curse. Having taken the full brunt of Aqua's kick, the puppet bounced from the ceiling to the floor, collapsing in a heap. Its internal construction had been wrecked by the impact, leaving the drum of music box that powered the puppet wrapped as well. Take your design flaws up with your maker. A single dynamo would have been all you needed to. Wait, what the? Oh, it's collapsing. Part of the ceiling came crashing down in front of Aqua, snapping her back to her senses. Did I really just take her out? She was so stunned by her own victory that she forgot that House of Mirrors had already begun to collapse. I've got to get out of here. Oh, there's the other one. It's like a timer. There was no time to listen to victory or pity her opponent, not unless she wanted to meet the same fate. As the situation stood, she found it hard to imagine getting out alive. Get a move on, Aqua. She clapped herself on the cheeks to motivate herself anew. This was her bounty for finishing their battle in a matter of seconds. Her breath vibrant with resentment, Aqua ran to her The collapse was intensifying by the second. Having lost its support pillars, the castle was buckling under its own weight. Out of my way. Holy shit. Escaping from the basement was proving to be of no easy way. While she was taking the shortest route possible through the maze, she was nearly crushed by falling pieces of the ceiling along the way. This was the second time, no, third, she had to deal with a fallen rebel along the way. I thought she only had like 30 shots in her. She destroyed the debris in the stairs with magical bullets as she ran. The automaton's jamming had long since worn off. The early attack had damaged the vast majority of its functions. Oh. There it goes. Aqua's breathing was heavy as she ran. Desperation sparked her brain into overdrive. The ceiling seemed to be collapsing in slow motion. Life seemed to flash before her very eyes, each second stretched into 5. Her frayed nerves made it hard to tell the time. Oh shit, it's still awake. There were debris riddled throughout the stairways, forcing her to crawl up to it. She emerged from the destroyed basement to the collapsing first floor. The plaza was still traversable all the way to Mirko itself, and fortunately for her, the crucial path to the exit was still intact. I made it. The corridor to the entrance was still intact. The basement maze only extended as far as the plaza, so the entrance corridor wouldn't collapse. Only the ceiling would cave in, leaving the scaffolding surrounding intact. She got herself this far by telling herself repeatedly that fate would decide whether or not she reached the plaza. Her gamble paid off. It was her lucky day. All she had to do was muster the last of her strength and keep moving forward until... She hesitated for a fraction of a second. Was it naivety or a sense of responsibility? She pushed aside the image that popped into her head and continued running down the corridor. We don't have the luxury of coordinating the timing with each other to pull this off. It's not like the greatest plan in the world, but we both need to do our parts and get to the exit as quickly as possible. That was 5 minutes ago. At that time, Sojiro had nodded with trepidation, and Ako had not bothered to ask herself why. What are you spitching out for? Just focus on running. This corridor was giving out too. If she were to look back, she was sure she would see the building collapsing on her. She was also sure she had no time to waste doing so. Oh, that's the exit. Her luck was fading as fast as the building structure internally. It was a small miracle that she had escaped seriously injuries at this point, and she could not afford even the slightest slip up. An ankle sprain, loss of balance, or even a sneeze would be fatal. A simple part of the back was enough to end it. So naturally... It's over. There it was, clear as day. From the ditches of the stairway, death had arisen to take her down with it. A corpse that had crawled its way up from the depths of hell itself. It was so operational. That's fucking creepy. And it was so armed with curses that had crawled after her, watching as Aqua desperately tried to save herself. The puppet's arm shot forward. While Aqua did not turn to meet it, she could see its reflection in the mirrors. Oh my god. Extend, extend, extend. This time she could not dodge it. There was absolutely nothing she could do. The puppet with her face saying, "Oh." Gouge out your crown, Bahamut's whispering dust. Death be upon you. Oh my god. For a moment she could not believe her eyes. It was the last thing she expected to see. Don't know when to give up, do you? There he is. A fierce expression adored in the face of the boy who had been waiting in the plaza as he smashed the puppet's outstretched arm. Anger really did not suit him at all. His weapon of choice was a fire extinguisher. He must have searched the maze for something to use as a weapon. No, never mind that. It was too crazy to contemplate, but had stayed behind for her. He stayed behind for her. That's sweet. Suzuki. Ako stopped the feet as she swore would never stop moving and extended a hand out to him. That's enough. Leave it. We have to go. Sojiro tossed the fire extinguisher aside and took off running. Look at that, she went back for him, dude. Oh my god, what a fucking good chapter, dude. Pieces of the ceiling continued to collapse like dominoes. They kept moving with dust and dirt followed in their wake. Their shadows raced over the collapsed corridor of all their strength. The whole place collapses? The castle was on tour of death. With massive crashing cloud of dust upon her chapter of the fairy tale that could then kissy land came from her and it's over. We all live happily ever after? That was it? We beat the light novel? We beat the visual novel, right? This duel to death was over for a moment. Amidst her swirling emotions, any past and real was forgotten. The two collapsed on the lawn and basked in strange solidarity. The ringing in their ears subsided before long. A tremor of such magnitude seemed impossible in an amusement park like this. Damn, the whole place is destroyed. As the sounds of destruction echoed across the park, Akko addressed the individual at her side. Hey, you alive? Yeah. Titch. While the click of her tongue was adorable, the meaning behind them was annoying, but they made it. Aozaki, what happened to that thing? What do you think? It was crushed to bits. Sojiro sighed, not wholly relieved by her frank response, his response. Never mind the thing, you should be worrying about yourself. He wasn't out of the woods yet after all. Oh, come on. Aozaki, I'm guessing you were a bit of a bully as a kid. Maybe, but I don't get a kick out of seeing people suffer. Never mind that. Do you know the situation you're in right now? She sat up and smiled. Sojiro hung his head up in shame, wondering why her kind tone and expression were so chilling. Please accept my serious apologies. Oh no, don't you even start. You know what agreement was, and a deal is a deal. If you held up your end of the bargain, I'd let you go. Exactly, and that's why I'm apologizing. Sojiro made a show of avoiding her eyes, like a pouting child. Oh, Akko was taken aback by this silky display. Perhaps he was angry himself rather than her. He was not mad because she would not let him go. He was mad that he had not done his part. Oh, that's sweet. Ha. Akko sighed for what seemed like the millionth time that day. She could not figure out what would surprise her more, his unconditional kindness or his naive approval of it. So, are you ready? Of course not, but it promised a process. In the end, I failed to do my part. It was certainly the case that he failed to do any of the things she had expected of him. But just then, she glanced back at the collapsed house of mirrors. What he had done after failing so spectacularly? He had searched for the extinguisher so he could use it as a weapon, and waited patiently in the plaza as the maze collapsed all around him just because he thought it was wrong to leave her behind. It was a foolish choice and the exact opposite of her choice to run towards the exit without hesitation. I suppose I'll take it. No, that's sweet. She was satisfied even if she was shocked at how naive she was being. It was true that he had saved her. She smiled inwardly, admiringly, if only for a moment. The bravery he had continued to show her face of such extreme circumstances.
役割は果たさな
You
かっ
may
たけ
have
ど
blown your chance, but you did make up for it after the fact. I'll keep my promise. With a nod, she pulled herself to her feet.
約束は
But you'll pay
It's
back this
gonna
favor
motte
someday. Huh? The girl tried to keep a straight face as she tried to hand the boy still lying on the
結果
ground.
はどうあれ
You
手
managed
助
to
けし
help
て
me
もら
in
っ
the
た
end.
特別サービスっ
So
てこ
because
と
of
で
that, I'll let you off the hook for tonight.
は
Huh? She bashfully averted her gaze. Though her profile appeared different than it had in the past, it was clear still the fact of a vibrant girl he met the day he first arrived in town.
何よ
What are you staring at? As if she had felt his eyes on her, she shot him a frowning glare.
いや
Oh, sorry.
突拍子もない
It's
けど、
just as crazy as this
青崎は
today
律儀だな
allowed. You really are a fair person, Ayazaki. He took her outstretched hand. Feeling his weight as she pulled him up, she could not help but think he was about the last person she wanted to hear that from.
ところで
By
今
the
夜はっ
way,
て
you
言うけ
said
ど
you'd let me off the hook for
明日から
tonight. What about tomorrow? Well, we'll just have to see.
その時になったら考えるわ
Fuck, that's cute. She shrugged her shoulders. They're gonna be together then. I already know it. She shrugged her shoulders as she was not so sure herself. The response was so unlike her that it made Sojiro smile. Was it the solidarity of having escaped death together, or the fleeting camaraderie that made him do so? It might have been for this night only, but the air between them was kind and gentle. A lot had transpired, but the midwinter nightmare had come to an end. The pair had overcome many trials and tribulations that could not leave the mirror realm in their wake. But before that,
随分と身勝手
how
ね
selfish of you.
それはあなた一人で決めて
And
い
who
いこと
may
だ
I
ったか
ask
しら青子
Alice, what are you gonna do? How selfish of you, and who may I ask that you could decide that, Aqua? That's not good. It was the voice of a beautiful songbird and a merciless machine. It rolled
Alice.
into one. Alice. Her voice quivered as she spoke the name. The lady in black made her presence known. The night was not yet over. Her name was Alice Kanoji. She was the witch whose name struck fear into the heart of Aqua and the bird of the night who would allow no witnesses. Fuck you, that's the end of the chapter? Alright. Damn, you know what? We're gonna end it there. That was so good. Oh my god. Chapter 5, bro. Oh my goodness. That now I can see why Witch of the Holy Night is getting really good. It starts off really nice and slow, but like not now. Now we're getting there. Alright man, we're gonna end it there. First of all, thank you guys so much for 101 subscribers. I truly mean it from the bottom of my heart. I'll be honest, I never thought we were gonna hit 10, 5, let alone 2. But thank you guys so much from the bottom of my heart, and until next time, peace!